Chapter 1209. The leader of the FA organization was actually Xia Changhe. Charlotte was stunned on the spot. The name that came out of Yin Fo's mouth was like a clap of thunder on a sunny day to him, almost shattering his heart. In fact, Charlotte had planned all of this from the very beginning. He had played with the two of them because he wanted to grind their willpower down and then obtain the information in their brains. This was very important to him, which was why he had done everything he had just done. This was because Augustman and Yin Fo were not ordinary people. Their willpower was very strong, and they had also received professional training to resist drugs and hypnosis. He was not sure if he could steal the correct information from their brains. If the two of them found out and deliberately used false information to deceive him, then it would be terrible. Therefore, after comparing their memories, he started this game of death. He wanted to use death to threaten the two of them to say something that was not in their brains. What was something that was not in their brains? It was something that had not happened yet, or it could be said to be a guess. Yin Fo and Augustman were important figures in the FA organization. Although they had not seen the leader of the FA organization, they definitely had their own guesses. This kind of guess about a person without his appearance, height, or voice did not exist in their brains at all. And this kind of guess could not be stolen from the two of them. Now, Charlotte had obtained the guess he wanted, but the answer was not what he wanted, not at all. This is what I want to tell you. The leader of the FA organization. He is your father. Your father, Xia Changhe. Yin Fo's expression was very ferocious. Just as he finished speaking, Charlotte suddenly raised his leg and kicked Yin Fo's lower abdomen heavily. Yin Fo's body was sent flying into the air, slamming into the wall before falling to the ground. Cough! Yin Fo spat out a mouthful of blood. F***CK. Charlotte pointed the gun at Yin Fo's head. You still want to ruin the relationship between my father and me. Believe it or not, I'll shoot you to death right now. A sickly smile appeared on Yin Fo's face. Don't you want to know who the leader of the FA organization is? I told you, but you didn't believe me. You don't believe it because you can't accept it, right? After venting for a while, Charlotte gradually calmed down. Tell me, why do you say that? In Charlotte's memory, his father, Xia Changhe, was a member of the FA organization, but he was only a low-ranking freelance agent. Because he stole the AE capsules from the AE Research Center, he was hunted down by the FA organization. Father had created the Chinese Zodiac battle team and had been avoiding the FA organization's pursuit for so many years while investigating the password of the AE capsule. How could he be the leader of the FA organization? Cough, cough. Yin Fo spat out another mouthful of blood. I don't have evidence, but I can guess. Regarding your father, you're actually very strange yourself, aren't you? If he was just a small freelance agent, could he know so many things? Could he steal the AE capsules from Area 51? Charlotte was silent. Regarding his father, Xia Changhe, he actually had his own guesses, even suspicions. But he didn't want to think about it, and he didn't want to face it. A small freelance agent couldn't do what Yin Fo said at all. Also, he got married and gave birth to 4 children, but his father didn't even come back to visit. However, if his father, Xia Changhe, was the leader of the FA organization, how could he let Yin Fo and Augustman send men a sacrifice to destroy the Rema Group? Father should know the importance of the Rema Group to him. Also, if the leader of the FA organization was his father, Xia Changhe, why would he cooperate with the CIB to carry out the Dewang Snow Mountain mission and let Dark Mona kill Amanda, Bagu, Park Taeyong, and Marcus? Charlotte couldn't figure it out no matter how hard he tried. Yin Fo continued, I've always been very strange. Why didn't the leader show himself, but commanded us by sending letters? To be able to control the FA organization in this way, he should know the FA organization very well. He knows everyone's weaknesses and strengths like the back of his hand. But there's no need for him to hide himself like this. He could show himself and rule the entire FA organization as a king. He didn't do that. So what does this mean? This means that there's a reason why he can't show himself. And this reason is you. This is your guess, my father. My father. Xiaolei's voice was frosty. What are you basing your guess on? Since you know it's just a guess, do you expect me to show you any evidence? Yennefer avoided Charlotte's gaze, his eyes flickering. Charlotte's gaze moved to Augustman. Don't you have anything to say? About the leader of the FA organization. Augustman's eyes were cold, but he didn't say anything. Charlotte said, Yennefer has already taken the first step in this game. If you have nothing to say, he lives and you die. The pressure of death was transferred to Augustman. I guess. Augustman loosened his mouth. Your father. Your reason. Charlotte controlled his anger. He knows too much, but that's not the only reason. Augustman said, that year, several elite agents that I personally trained were sent to America, but I didn't know the specific content of the mission. I was just an assistant, providing all the help to the person who provided the operation password. I put a locator on one of the elite agents, and his last location was near Area 51. In that mission, those elite agents had all died. Until now, I still don't know what the mission was, but after that, the AE capsule in the AE Research Center was stolen. Was my father one of those elite agents? Charlotte asked. Augustman said, no, he wasn't. He was just an ordinary free agent, and he had been hiding in Area 51 for a long time. He had nothing to do with that operation. At least, that's what it looked like on the surface. But then the AE capsule went missing, and so did your father. We determined that your father stole the AE capsule, so we went after him. You know what happened after that. No matter who we sent, we couldn't find him. Even if we did, we would fall into the trap he set in advance. Tell me, if he didn't know our every move like the back of his hand, how could an ordinary free agent escape the FA organization's pursuit? Charlotte fell into silence again. He was afraid because he believed Augustman's words. Based on what had happened, Augustman's guess was very likely to be correct. Moreover, Augustman's guess was the same as Yennefer's. If Yennefer and Augustman's guess was correct, then the result, Charlotte didn't dare to imagine it. Yennefer and Augustman looked at each other, and just as Charlotte was in extreme pain, Yennefer quietly moved his right foot towards Charlotte. He was lying on the ground, and his action was like a person who needed to stretch his leg after having a leg cramp. He was injured, so this action looked normal and there was no danger. Charlotte didn't seem to notice Yennefer's little action, but just as he pointed the tip of his shoe at Charlotte, Super Xiaoqian suddenly said, Master, that guy is pointing his foot at you. Is this an insulting gesture? Poof! A bullet shot out from the Viper pistol's muzzle, and a flower of blood splashed out from Yennefer's right knee. Ah! Yennefer screamed. Being shot in the knee was different from being shot in the muscle, because there was only a layer of skin on the knee, and it couldn't absorb the impact of the bullet at all. Furthermore, the knee was full of nerves, so this shot basically crippled his right leg. Master, you're too. Super Xiaoqian's voice sounded. She seemed to want to say, you're too cruel, but she didn't say it. In her opinion, Yennefer only used his leg to point at Charlotte, but Charlotte crippled Yennefer's leg with one shot, which was a bit too much. Charlotte walked to Yennefer's side and took off the shoe on Yennefer's right foot and then tore off the insole. Yennefer's shoe had another mechanism, and there was a special pistol hidden in it that could shoot a bullet. He had been waiting for a chance to assassinate Charlotte, and just now, he finally got the chance, but because of Super Xiaoqian's reminder, the assassination failed, and he was shot. Facing an enemy like Charlotte, his heart had always been broken. Super Xiaoqian saw the gun in the shoe through the surveillance camera, and she cleverly shut her mouth because she didn't think that Charlotte fired because of a reminder. Otherwise, Charlotte wouldn't have immediately taken off Yennefer's right shoe. Yennefer, you've been lying to me, haven't you? The leader of the FA organization isn't my father, but someone else, right? Charlotte's eyes were very cold, and so was his voice. Tui. Yennefer spat a mouthful of blood at Charlotte. Charlotte dodged and pulled the trigger at the same time. Poof! A bloody hole appeared on Yennefer's forehead, and his four limbs twitched twice, then stopped moving and never moved again. The smartest person in the FA organization was dead. Charlotte moved the gun to Augustman. You were lying to me just now, weren't you? You can think whatever you want. Augustman knew that the final moment had come, and he had lost the hope of survival, but he calmed down instead. This world will be destroyed soon, and no one will be able to survive. I'll go first. I'll wait for you in hell. Charlotte didn't shoot immediately. He said, Augustman, I know you're not afraid of death. You've been trained in this area. But I don't know if you're afraid of becoming the food of the infected. Are you afraid? F***CK. Augustman roared at Charlotte. You yellow-skinned pig. Kill me. Come on. Shoot me. You still want to play racist when you're about to die? Xiao Lei grabbed Augustine by the collar and dragged him towards the door. As he walked, he said, I'm going to feed you to the dogs. A dog shouldn't be able to eat you in a short time. Wait. Augustman was terrified. What do you want from me? An answer. Charlotte stopped at the top of the pillar. Did you and Yin F.O. lie to me? Augustman suddenly opened his mouth to bite Charlotte. Charlotte instinctively moved back to avoid it. Augustman's head suddenly slammed back. Boom! Augustman's head hit the pillar like a hammer. The back of his head cracked open, blood and brain matter spurting out. The chief instructor of the FA organization was also dead, killing 2 leaders of the FA organization in one night. But Charlotte wasn't happy at all. The death of these 2 fellows left him with a heavy question. Father, what kind of person are you? Master, what should we do with the Mexican and the Indian bomb? Super Xiaoqian's voice sounded. Charlotte came back to his senses. He said, kill them. Chapter 12:10. The heavy security door opened, and several elite agents of the FA organization who were guarding the door were ready to bow to the 2 leaders. But what awaited them was hot bullets. They didn't even have time to see who was standing behind the door before a few bullets flew over and penetrated their heads in a second. Charlotte returned to the area where the Hellhound virus-infected were held. He took out explosive devices from his backpack and installed them at several key points. Returning to the first underground floor, he entered the laboratory again and placed all the underground materials that could be made into bombs and used as fuel under several support pillars. Half an hour later, Charlotte returned to the ground. The green algae company was still brightly lit. A few white guards were staring warily at a van that drove past the gate. There was a family of 4 sitting in the van, and they did not know where they were going. In the green belt on the side of the road, an Indian monk got on a cheap Indian-made motorcycle, turned it on, and left. The Indian monk rode the motorcycle through the gate of the green algae company. Did you see that? The monk also knows how to ride a motorcycle, a guard said with a smile. It was probably their Buddha Lord who bought it for him, huh? A guard laughed loudly. Amidst the laughter of the guards, the Indian monk rode the motorcycle and disappeared into the darkness. Boom! A violent explosion suddenly occurred, and the earth-shattering sound could be heard several kilometers away. In the explosion, the entire building shook, and so did the ground. Thick smoke produced by the heat of the flames and chemicals billowed out of the shattered windows, and everywhere the smoke passed, the grass withered and the leaves turned yellow. Several guards fled in panic, but before they could escape to a safe area, the entire multi-purpose building collapsed and immediately drowned them. Half an hour later, Gandhi Airport. A passenger plane was parked on the tarmac, and there were not many passengers in the cabin. In the cockpit, a white captain looked a little anxious. He glanced at the watch on his wrist from time to time, waiting for someone to feel something. Beep, beep, beep. The captain took out his satellite phone and answered the call. Mr. Williams, the people from the FA organization haven't arrived yet, so we can't take off. What? The green algae company was bombed? The plan was canceled? Yes. After ending the call, the captain started the plane's engine. The plane began to sprint on the runway, and after a certain distance, it rose from the ground. Rumble. The passenger plane that had just left the ground and was about to take off suddenly exploded. The location of the explosion happened to be the location of the fuel tank. In an instant, the flames burned through the air, and the debris of the passenger plane flew in all directions. Not a single intact part could be found. On a country road next to the airport, Charlotte withdrew his gaze from the direction of the airport. Xiaoqian, connect me to Williams. Got it, master. Super Xiaoqian's voice came from the multifunction watch. A few seconds later, Charlotte raised his wrist. Who are you? How do you know this number? William's voice came from the phone, full of vigilance and a trace of anger. It's me, Mr. Williams. Charlotte said to the microphone on the multifunction watch. I don't know if you recognize my voice, but in order to save everyone's time, I'd better say it directly. I'm Charlotte. There was a panicked voice from the multifunction watch, and Williams covered the position of the microphone with his hand and ordered someone to locate the mobile phone signal. Charlotte said, It's useless. Don't expect your people to locate me. What do you want to do? It was Williams' voice. Ha ha ha. Williams only laughed and did not speak. Charlotte said to talk, and he was willing to delay a little more time for the technicians to track and locate Charlotte. Charlotte said, Mr. Williams, you hid the truth of the Hellhound virus and asked the FA organization to send men of sacrifice to attack the capital of China with the Hellhound virus in an attempt to destroy the Rema Group. It's impossible that you don't know such a big thing, right? Williams said, Mr. Xia, are you kidding me? The accusations you made are very serious and even threaten the peace of the world. What gives you the courage to say that? Do you have evidence? Of course I have evidence. To tell you the truth, I have killed Yin FO and Augustman of the FA organization, and they told me everything before I killed them. I have audio and video recordings of their confessions, and I also have evidence of the Green Algae Company's illegal research on the Hellhound virus. Well, I also have the recording of your conversation with the captain. You? William's voice was full of tension. He couldn't help but be nervous, because if what Charlotte said was true, and he really had the evidence in his hands, once he released it, the dark side of the United States would be known to the world, and its reputation would be ruined. Are you afraid? Charlotte said, You can do things that even the devil won't do. Are you afraid that people will know? Williams was silent for a moment. Then he sneered and said, Even if you have some so-called evidence, it will not be admitted. If you feel wronged and want to go to war with us, you can do so. We will accompany you at any time. Charlotte said lightly, I think you are mistaken. I'm just a businessman, and I have no right to decide whether to go to war or not. However, I can decide whether or not I should use the same method to return the favor to all of you. I think you also know the power of the Hellhound virus. I don't know what kind of guarantee Kirsten gave you, but you have the confidence to use this method to attack the most populous country in the world. So I have decided to give you 1 or 2 human bombs that have swallowed the Hellhound virus. What do you think? You dare? Williams roared. If you dare, why wouldn't I dare? Charlotte said coldly, Mr. Williams, pick a location. New York or Washington? Charlotte, do you want to plunge the 2 countries into a nuclear war? Williams' voice was threatening. Aren't you afraid of plunging the 2 countries into a nuclear war by doing that? I've already said it very clearly. The evidence you have can't prove anything. I'm very angry. Charlotte said, I can't control my emotions. I feel that I am going crazy from anger. If you want me to give up my crazy idea, there is only one way to solve it. You dare to raise conditions with me? Don't pretend to be a big shot. In my eyes, you're nothing. Charlotte said coldly, If you piss me off, I will provide some armed organizations with funds and channels to let them play with you. I think it will not be 1 or 2 human bombs. There will be so many that you will have a headache. Williams was silent again. Someone's voice came from the multifunction watch. He said several places: Moscow, Iceland, Italy, and Ireland. These were all the locations that he had tracked. Then, Williams gave him a slap in the face. This was, of course, the credit of Super Xiaoqian. It was a piece of cake for her to make Charlotte's location appear all over the world. Williams finally couldn't hold it in anymore. Mr. Xia, we don't have to go that far. You called me, which means that I have something you want. Tell me, what do you want from me? Kirsten, Charlotte said, the CEO of Lockheed Martin Corporation. You want Kirsten? Williams' voice was full of surprise and suspicion. What do you want him for? Charlotte said, ask him to come to China. I want to talk to him. That's it. That's it. What if I refuse? Williams suppressed the anger in his heart. Charlotte said indifferently, If you don't agree, then it's very simple. I will release all the evidence in my hands to the world. Don't count on the heavenly God system in your hands to stop me. In my eyes, your heavenly God system is nothing. Oomph. Williams snorted coldly. This is only the first step. The second step is an eye for an eye. I will use the same method to attack the United States. Don't you want a war? I will give you a war. Do you want to be a terrorist? Didn't you give me the title of a terrorist a long time ago? Then I will show you terror once. Goodbye, Mr. Williams. Wait. Williams stopped him and said, Your request is very difficult, and I can't make the decision. Give me 3 days, and I will give you an answer. You only have 24 hours. Without waiting for Williams to finish speaking, Charlotte had already hung up the phone. Then, he threw the phone on the ground and crushed it with his foot. Master, if he doesn't agree, will you really use that method to attack the United States? Super Xiaoqian blinked her big eyes in the multifunction watch and looked at her heart. She seemed to want to know the answer. Charlotte smiled bitterly. You can say that, but you can't do that. If I let people bring the hellhound virus to the United States, many innocent people will die because of me. American children, American students, old people, women, and those who love peace are not my enemies. I am not crazy, and I am not a terrorist, so I will not do that. But aren't they preparing to do that? They want to destroy the world. Do I want to destroy the world like them? Charlotte's gaze moved to the night sky, looking at the deep night sky and the stars in the night sky. They will pay the price. I will use my own way to make them bear the responsibility. Super Xiaoqian giggled. Master, when you kill people, you're like a demon, but when you need to think for ordinary people, you're like an angel. Your body is half angel and half demon. You are really too charming. I worship you so much. Charlotte pulled down his robe and used his sleeve to cover the multifunction watch. Hey, Master, what do you mean? Why are you covering me? Let me out, let me out. Super Xiaoqian shouted in Charlotte's sleeve. Charlotte stepped on the cheap second-hand motorcycle and then drove into the depths of the darkness. In the darkness, he was a lonely knight. He will break through this darkness and welcome the dawn. Chapter 12:11. China's capital. The afternoon sun was warm. Xia Shui and Ryu Yungnam came back. Jiang Rui was the most familiar with Xia Shui. They were talking and laughing. Ryu Yungnam was playing with a child. The living room was lively. Xiao Shui, when are you getting married? Jiang Rui asked. It's still early. Xia Shui's face turned red. I haven't played enough. I don't want to get married so early. Jiang Rui looked at Ryu Yungnam, who was playing with Xia Jianghe. Ryu Yungnam shrugged his shoulders with a helpless expression. Jiang Rui said with a smile, What's wrong with getting married early? It's good to have a child and live a lively life. You see, it's hard to like children, right? Yes, sister-in-law, I like children very much. Ryu Yungnam smiled. Xia Shui said, I don't want to give birth to a child for you. You have to give birth yourself. Jiang Rui poked Xia Shui with her finger. Really, Masato is a big man. Without you, how can he give birth to a child? Sister-in-law, don't worry about our matters. I will make my own decisions. Xia Shui said. Jiang Rui sighed softly and said secretly in her heart, They are really siblings. She is as stubborn as her brother. At this moment, a voice came from the door. You and Masato will get married during the spring festival. I will personally preside over the wedding for you. Husband. Jiang Rui suddenly smiled. She strode forward and gave Charlotte a hug. Brother. Ryu Yungnam called very affectionately. Xia Shui saw Charlotte and had an expression like a mouse seeing a cat. She whispered, Brother. Charlotte came in. Xiao Shui, your marriage with Masato is set. During the spring festival, I will ask your sister-in-law to pick an auspicious date for you. You will get married on whichever day you pick. Brother. Xia Shui refused. I'm still young. I don't want to get married so early. Charlotte ignored Xia Shui. He looked at Ryu Yungnam. Masao, do you think so too? Ryu Yungnam looked at Xia Shui with a guilty conscience. From his standpoint, he definitely wanted to marry Xia Shui as soon as possible. However, Xia Shui was still so playful and didn't want to get married. He didn't dare to force Xia Shui. When Charlotte asked him such a question, he was, of course, in a difficult position. He didn't want to say yes, but he also didn't dare to say no. All right, I'll take it as you guys agreeing, Charlotte said. Rui, go pick a date for them later. Yes, I'll ask Xiao to come with me to the temple, Jiang Rui said with a smile. Brother, Xia Shui said angrily, what era is it now? Why are you still so overbearing? Marriage is such a big thing. How can you decide for me? It's not that I don't want to get married. I just want to get married 2 years later. Why do I have to get married during the spring festival? She hadn't graduated from college yet. She was still a student. It was easy to understand that she didn't want to get married. Ryu Yungnam actually understood it, so he didn't force her. But neither Xia Shui nor Ryu Yungnam knew Charlotte's difficulties. He didn't have much time. If the end was death or leaving this world, then he wanted to see his sister get married and start a family before that. This was very important to him. However, such a reason couldn't be explained to Xia Shui and Ryu Yungnam. Looking at the angry Xia Shui, Charlotte's heart softened a little. He said, Little Shui, I'm looking forward to you getting married and starting a family even in my dreams. This is one of my wishes. Can't you satisfy my wish? Jiang Rui said, Little Shui, you know how much your brother has sacrificed for you. You have your brother. This is your blessing in this life. He asked you to get married during the spring festival. He must have his reasons. You should just agree. Jiang Rui's words made Xia Shui's mind come up with the past. In order for her to study in peace, Charlotte tore up the notice from Kyoto University and went to the construction site to work for her. Charlotte also gave her the original shares of Rema Group, which was a wealth that could let her live the best life for the rest of her life. Everything she had now was given by Charlotte. He only had such a small wish. Why couldn't she satisfy him? After a moment of silence, Xia Shui finally nodded. Well, I will get married with Masahiro during the spring festival. But I have a condition. What condition? Asked Charlotte. My sisters-in-law have to be my bridesmaids, said Xia Shui. Jiang Rui said, How can we be bridesmaids? Fool, bridesmaids are for girls who haven't been married. We are all mothers. What would we look like if we stood by your side? Others will laugh at us. What's wrong with that? Our family has never taken a normal route. Others can only marry one wife, but my brother married 5. I want you to be my bridesmaids. Why can't you? Xia Shui had her reasons. This. Jiang Rui smiled bitterly. Charlotte said, Okay, if you want your sisters-in-law to be your bridesmaids, then they'll be your bridesmaids. I also want my nieces and nephews to be flower girls, said Xia Shui. The children are still smiling. You want them to be your flower girls? Jiang Rui glanced at Xia Jianghe subconsciously. Xia Jianghe giggled. I want to be a flower girl. Tong, tong, tong. At this time, Fan Fan, who was holding Xia Fan, Liang Xiao, who was holding Liang Jiayu, Long Bing, who was holding Xia Long, and Tang Yuyan, who was pregnant, came in. The living room suddenly became lively. Auntie! Xia Long opened his chubby little hands and wanted Xia Shui to hug him. Io, Auntie's good long, so obedient. Xia Shui reached out and hugged Xia Long in her arms. Auntie breastfeed, Xia Long said. Screw you. Xia Shui's face suddenly turned red. You little brat. You wanted Auntie to breastfeed since you were young, but Auntie didn't. Then I don't want you to hug me anymore. Mom, hug me. Xia Long extended his chubby little hands to Long Bing. Milk his mother. Xia Long seemed to mean this. Long Bing rolled her eyes at him. I don't want you anymore. Daddy hug. Xia Long extended his hands to Charlotte. Io, Daddy's good son. Charlotte hugged Xia Long. You little brat, you've gained weight again. You need to lose weight. Ha ha ha. Everyone laughed. There was a cheerful atmosphere in the living room. After it was enough, Tang Yuyan walked to Charlotte's side and whispered, Where did you go yesterday? I didn't see anyone at home, and I couldn't find you at the company. I went to ask the 2 German female engineers, and they said that you left the night before yesterday. Let's go out and talk. Charlotte left the living room. Tang Yuyan followed Charlotte out of the living room and then came to the fish pond in the backyard. The weeping willows on the edge of the pond had withered, and the pond was full of withered leaves that fell from the treetops. The fish swam in the water leisurely. They didn't have human worries. What do you want to say to me? Tang Yuyan leaned on Charlotte's arm gently. Charlotte said, "The crisis caused by the hellhound virus is very serious. I went to India to investigate the hellhound virus." "Ah, you went to India?" Tang Yuyin suddenly became nervous. "Why are you still so reckless? You were alone. What if? What if?" She didn't want to say it out loud. Charlotte gently put his arm around her shoulder. "I'm back now, aren't I? Don't worry about me. What we have to worry about now is the fate of this country and its people. Fortunately, I went. Otherwise, the 2 human bombs from the United States would have carried the hellhound virus to us." He told her what had happened in India. Then, he put a USB flash drive in Tang Yin's palm. "This is the evidence that I said was copied. There are videos and recordings. Do you know what to do?" Tang Yuyin was furious. "I'm going back to 101 innings. Such a big thing must be known to the country's leaders. Such a big thing should indeed be known to the country's leaders." The possibility of a war breaking out because of this matter was slim, but with the evidence in hand, they had the upper hand on a strategic level. Therefore, the evidence that Charlotte brought back from India was very important to this country and its people. "I'll take you there," Charlotte said. "Your belly is so big. It's not convenient to drive." He reached out and gently stroked Tang Yuyin's big belly. For some reason, he suddenly thought of Shinda Tianin. Her stomach should be responding by now, right? It had been more than 3 to 4 months since he had returned from Nigeria. She hadn't called him all this time, but he knew that she really wanted him to see her. However, he was too busy. There were too many things that he had to deal with. The Hades fighter, the Kuan Peng bomber, the Hellhound virus crisis, as well as the ever-nearing death threats of Prehistoric One and Zhu Xianyue and the Box of the World. However, no matter how many things he had to deal with personally, he knew that it wasn't an excuse. He felt that he owed Shinda Tianin a little. Tang Yuyin snuggled up to him and said in a small voice, "Tianin called me last night and asked me something. Although she didn't say it explicitly, I know that she wants to see you. If you—" "Well, I know." Charlotte said, "Let's go. I'll take you there and then go to Wanxiang Group to see her." "Well, let's go." Tang Yuyin took Charlotte's arm. Jiang Rui stood in the corridor and said loudly, "Honey, Yin, where are you going?" "To innings 101. Charlotte said, "I'll take you Yin there. Then come back early." "I'll wait for you to have dinner," Jiang Rui said. "I'll come back after I finish my business," Tang Yuyin said. Charlotte drove the Night 15 out of Peace Residence. As the car was running on the road, he thought of something and asked Tang Yuyin a question. "Yin, what kind of person do you think my father is?" "You mean Dad?" Tang Yuyin wanted to say something, but stopped. Charlotte said, "It doesn't matter. You don't have to worry about anything. I want to hear your real opinion. It's very important to me." Tang Yuyin thought for a moment and said, "Innings 101 investigated him, but you know the result. We don't know much about him. We only know that he is a freelance agent of the FA organization. My opinion of him, well, he's a very mysterious person. I can't see through him, but I know he's definitely not a simple person. There's one more thing I don't understand. In this situation, if he comes back, no one will investigate him. But why doesn't he come back? Can you tell me why?" Charlotte smiled bitterly. "I also want to know why, but he never tells me. He didn't come back, even when he wanted them to have children. What kind of reason made him not come home on the day he became a grandfather?" Tang Yuyin put her hand on Charlotte's thigh. "Don't think too much. I think Dad must have his reasons. Let nature take its course. Everything will be fine." "Okay," Charlotte responded, but he couldn't help but think of what happened in Jerusalem. His father, Xia Changhe, left him the coordinates to enter the mountain pyramid and find the crystal skull. How do you know that? Half an hour later, the Night 15 left innings 101 and drove to the Wanxiang Group's headquarters in the capital. Chapter 12:12. The Night 15 stopped in the underground parking lot. Charlotte got out of the car and saw Fu Mingmei waiting in front of the elevator. Charlotte walked over to her and greeted her. "Hello, Mingmei." Fu Mingmei rolled her eyes at Charlotte. "What's so good about it? My lungs are about to explode." "What's wrong with your lungs? Have you seen a doctor?" My lungs are about to explode because of you." "Why would I see a doctor?" Fu Mingmei said. Charlotte smiled and said, I didn't provoke you. Why would I make you angry? Fu Mingmei hit Charlotte. Stop pretending. You got our Tianyin pregnant, but you didn't even come to see her for a few months. I see her sad all day, thinking about you, but can't see you. How can I not be angry with you? Charlotte sighed. It's my fault. Okay, I don't want to listen to your explanation. Go and explain it to her. Let's see how she teaches you a lesson. Fu Mingmei looked angry. She opened the elevator door and walked in. When entering the elevator, Charlotte looked at the multifunction watch on his hand. It was already several hours past the 24-hour deadline he gave Williams. Williams didn't call him. Charlotte raised his left wrist and said, Xiaoqian, publish everything I got from India. All influential newspapers, online media, and social media platforms around the world must receive my email. I'll do it right away, master. Ha! Super Xiaoqian's voice was heard. Charlotte said, What are you laughing at? I'm bored. The stock market thing will be done in a while. I have to find something to do, or else I won't be able to pass the time. Master, why don't you create a boyfriend for me? Super Xiaoqian said. Charlotte was speechless. Fu Mingmei looked at Charlotte curiously. New lover? Charlotte glared at Fu Mingmei, happy my ass. She is the artificial intelligence program I created, Super Xiaoqian. The reason why Wanxiang Group can have a stock price today is all because of her. He handed his left wrist to Fu Mingmei. Fu Mingmei saw a Super Xiaoqian in a military uniform. Her appearance and figure stunned her. She looks like a real person. Are you lying to me? Super Xiaoqian snorted. What are you trying to say? Let me tell you, if you mess with me, I'll make your Wanxiang Group stock price drop to $1 per share. Fu Mingmei's lips moved a little, but she held it in and didn't say anything. She was very clear about what Charlotte had done for Tianyin. Shinta-Ren's life, the black pot that saved his life, the Wanxiang Group's U.S. stock price, and so on, so she wasn't really angry at Charlotte. It was very simple. Even from her point of view as a bystander, what did Charlotte do for Shinta Tianyin, and what did Shinta Tianyin's waiting amount to? When they arrived at the chairman's office on the top floor of the Heaven's Wings building, Shinta Tianyin was in the middle of a meeting with the bosses of several branches. When Charlotte appeared at the door, Shinta Tianyin was stunned for a moment. She suddenly stood up from her chair and walked towards Charlotte with her belly bulging. She didn't care how many pairs of eyes were watching. When she walked up to Charlotte, she burrowed into Charlotte's arms and hugged his waist tightly with both hands. Shinta Tianyin's voice trembled. I thought you wouldn't come to see me. You came. Charlotte gently hugged her thickened waist and said with a smile, Silly, of course I would come, but there were too many things to do, so I didn't come until today. You won't be angry with me, right? Why would I be angry with you? You may be the happiest woman in the world. Shinta Tianyin was smiling, but there were tears in the corners of her eyes. Those were tears of joy and happiness. Several branch bosses looked at Shinta Tianyin and Charlotte, not daring to disturb them, nor did they dare to leave without permission. Fu Mingmei coughed. The meeting is over. What are you still doing here? Several branch bosses felt as if they had been granted amnesty, and then they got up and left Shinta Tianyin's office. Who was Charlotte? Shinta Tianyin was her ex-husband, the owner of Rema Group, and China's national hero. Who didn't know him? Charlotte only came to see Shinta Tianyin once in a few months. Would they dare to stay here and be a third wheel? After the branch bosses left, Fu Mingmei closed the door, but then opened it again. She stuck her head out and said, Well, Tianyin, if you can't help it, you must be careful, okay? Also, son-in-law, you have to be tender and protective of the fair sex, okay? She has 2 of your children in her tummy. Charlotte was speechless. Shinta Tianyin glared at Fu Mingmei. Fu Mingmei stuck out her tongue and closed the door. The moment the door closed, Shinta Tianyin tiptoed, hooked her arms around Charlotte's neck, and kissed his lips. In the next second, she impatiently pried open Charlotte's teeth and sent her tongue into Charlotte's mouth, letting him taste it. Her warm and soft body, and her slippery tongue. Charlotte reacted very quickly and responded passionately. He hugged her and gave her as many kisses as she wanted. He would give her as deep a kiss as she wanted. Shinta Tianyin's breathing became rapid, and a wisp of pink suffused his cheeks. While kissing passionately, her hand reached for Charlotte's belt. Charlotte realized what she wanted, and he grabbed her hand. Tianyin, you're pregnant. You can't. However, Shinta Tianyin's hand stubbornly achieved her goal. She panted and said, they're by your side every day. It's not easy for me to see you, and you don't want me? I miss you, and my body misses you. Be gentle. It's okay. This sentence completely melted Xia Lei and also ignited him. He picked her up by the waist and walked to the lounge. He ignored one problem, which was his belt. As soon as he took a step, his pants fell down. Shinta Tianyin grabbed it and said with a smile, are you in such a hurry? Xia Lei pretended to glare at her and then pinched her, but with the hand that was holding it. Ouch, you hit me. Shinta Tianyin buried her head in Charlotte's neck. I'm going to tell my son and daughter that you bullied me. After entering the lounge, Charlotte gently put Shinta Tianyin on the bed and then pressed his head against her lower abdomen. He heard the sound of the fetus moving. His eyes also saw the two children in Shinta Tianyin's womb, a boy and a girl. He gently stroked Shinta Tianyin's white and delicate belly with his hand and said with a smile, Xia Yang, Xia Yu, Daddy is here to see you. Call him Daddy. There was no sound of the children talking in Shinta Tianyin's belly. Shinta Tianyin hit Charlotte and giggled. It's only been a little while, and you already want the children to call you Daddy. Aren't you a little too impatient? Charlotte nudged Shinta Tianyin's big belly with his nose and said, if they don't talk, I'll eat you. It's so itchy. Shinta Tianyin hugged Charlotte's head and tangled with him. Pieces of clothes left their bodies, fell to the ground, and flew to the sofa. Charlotte was careful, and so was Shinta Tianyin. The two of them merged into one. Passion accumulated in their bodies, and then it was released. Finally, it returned to calmness. Shinta Tianyin was curled up in his arms. The flush on her face had yet to fade, and the smile of extreme satisfaction still lingered at the corner of her mouth. Her voice was very lazy, like that of timid cat. Hubby, are we too bad? We're doing this kind of thing in broad daylight. Charlotte said with a smile, so be it. As long as you're happy, I don't care about anything. You're still so good. Shinta Tianyin kissed Charlotte's cheek. Her heart was as sweet as honey. For her, happiness was when Charlotte was by her side, playing tricks on her, doing passionate things to her, and saying sweet words to her that could make her excited and happy. She was special. She wouldn't share a room with Charlotte's other women. She couldn't do it, so she would rather wait, even if it was a long time before she had such an opportunity. By the way, my dad knows I'm pregnant, Shinta Tianyin said. Charlotte was slightly nervous. What did he say? I said it's your child. He was happy all day. Shinta Tianyin said. He said that he's very happy that you can forgive me. You even gave birth to a child with me. This is the blessing of the Shinta family. I have to cherish it, Charlotte said with a smile, as long as he doesn't mind. I'm just worried that he won't be happy. Can you stay tonight? Our family of 3 can have a meal, Shinta Tianyin said. Charlotte nodded. Of course, no problem. I also want to meet your dad. We haven't had a drink together in a long time. Well, then I'll arrange it now. Shinta Tianyin climbed up anxiously. Xia Lei stretched his body comfortably. He was thinking about what excuse he should come up with to not go home. This was his worry. But at this moment, Shinta Tianyin climbed onto his body carefully and clumsily, which made him full of worry. Aren't you going to arrange dinner? I'm still a little hungry, Shinta Tianyin said. I have to eat my fill before I have the strength to do things. Charlotte didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Then, in the evening, Charlotte followed Shinta Tianyin to her home, Lane House. Charlotte met Shinta Tianyin, and it was inevitable that they had a heated conversation. The awkward feeling that Charlotte was worried about did not appear. It gave him the feeling that he and Shinta Tianyin had not divorced at all, but had just gone on a long trip. During dinner, the two men drank a lot of wine. After dinner, Shinta-run dragged Charlotte to drink tea and chat with him. Shinta Tianyin was unhappy. Dad, you should go to bed. Shinta-rin suddenly understood something. He smiled awkwardly. Oh, I drank too much. My head is so dizzy. I'm going to bed. Shinta Tianyin said, Dad, good night. Shinta Tianyin suddenly turned around and pulled Charlotte to the side. You have to be careful. Don't be rash, okay? Xiaolei was extremely embarrassed, but he still braced himself and nodded. Dad, don't worry. I will. Dad, what are you talking about? Shinta Tianyin blushed. Okay, I'm going to bed. Shinta-run did not dare to look at Shinta Tianyin's eyes, and left as if he was escaping. Shinta Tianyin held Charlotte's hand and went to the room where she and Charlotte got married. Everything was the same as before, and nothing had changed. Touching the scene, Charlotte felt as if he had returned to the past. Honey, let's go to bed. Honey, let's go to bed. Their eyes met, and suddenly, the two of them were together. Passion was burning, and passion was released. After this time, how many times could he be away from her? He did not know. What he knew was that he would have less and less time with her. He had to cherish every second with her now. How long is the due date? Half a year, well, maybe less than half a year. Shinta Tianyin hugged Charlotte nervously, afraid that he would be rash, but also afraid that he would not be passionate. Her body and emotions were in conflict, and she was the shield. Charlotte was very gentle, very gentle. On that day, I want to be with you, no matter what happens. Even if what? Even if the earth is destroyed. Huh. Shinta Tianyin slapped Charlotte's butt. What are you talking about? Our son and daughter were just born that day. How could it be the end of the world? Don't say such things. Charlotte's heart was heavy with sorrow. With the outbreak of the hellhound virus, no one could predict what the world would develop in half a year. He secretly made a decision in his heart. Even if I have to die, I want my child to grow up in a safe and peaceful environment. Chapter 12-13. Master? Master. Super Stingy's voice sounded from under the covers. Before Charlotte could say anything, Shinta Tianyin, who was sleeping in his arms, opened her eyes with a surprised expression. Hubby, who's in this room? Charlotte said, Why aren't you asleep yet? I can't bear to sleep. It's rare for me to be with you. I want to remember every minute of our time together. Shinta Tianyin said. Then she remembered that voice again. I really did hear someone talking just now. It was a woman. Could it be Liang Xiao? Did she come to catch us in the act? Charlotte didn't know whether to laugh or cry. What are you thinking? How could it be Xiao? Xiao Qian. Who's Xiao Qian? Shinta Tianyin asked in surprise. At the same time, she looked around the room, looking for that Xiao Qian. He thought of the Japanese female ninja who came down with someone, but he remembered that the female ninja was called Akiko Tsukino, not Xiao Qian. At this moment, Super Xiao Qian's voice sounded from under the covers again. Master, you're doing the right thing, right? Don't you think it's wrong for a child like me to see that place of yours? You'll lead me astray. That place of yours? Charlotte suddenly thought of something and hurriedly took out his left hand, which was wearing a multifunction watch, from under the covers. The lights in the room were not turned on. Charlotte's multifunction watch emitted a faint blue light in the dark environment, and the image on the screen was very clear. Shinta Tianyin finally saw Super Xiao Qian, a virtual beauty. Hi. Super Xiao Qian waved to Shinta Tianyin with a cute smile on her face. Hello, big sister Tianyin. I'm Xiao Qian. Shinta Tianyin didn't know what to say. Big sister Tianyin, please don't misunderstand. Super Xiao Qian said, I'm an artificial intelligence created by your husband. I don't exist in the real world. I'm the most powerful queen on the internet. Charlotte said, What queen? Speak properly. She's so cute. Shinta Tianyin finally figured out what was going on. She also relaxed and was no longer nervous. Charlotte said, Xiao Qian, why did you come out at this time? Super Xiao Qian said, Of course it's to report the mission to you. I have followed your instructions and sent the things you got from India to the influential media all over the world. At this time, the media should start to report. I created my account on several social media platforms. The name of the account is Rose Queen. I put the things you got from India on my social media account, and then I posted the views. Now, my husband has become the most popular account on those social media platforms. There are more than 100,000 comments so far. Good job. Charlotte's face showed a smile. Now, although Super Xiao Qian didn't exist in the real world, she had become his indispensable assistant. From a certain point of view, Her existence was even more terrifying than an army. By the way, Master, there's one more thing. Super Xiaoqian said, Williams keeps trying to contact the number you called. Do you want me to take his phone? Now. Yes, now. Super Xiaoqian said. Take it. I want to see what he has to say. Charlotte said. Shinta Tianyin said. Do you want me to leave for a while? No need. Charlotte kissed her cheek. You have to remember that you are my woman and the mother of my child. Jianglai, you have to face some special people in special situations. Shinta Tianyin nodded, her eyes full of determination and happiness. After a few seconds, William's voice came from the intelligent wristwatch. Mr. Xia, is that you? Charlotte said calmly. It's me. If you have something to say, say it. Why did you put those things on the internet? William's voice was full of anger. Don't tell me that the Wild Rose Queen isn't you. It's me. So what? Charlotte said, you dared to do such a thing, so you should have the courage to be exposed. What? Do you think it's troublesome? What I want to tell you is that this is just the beginning. Do you really want to start a war? William's tone was aggressive. Charlotte laughed coldly. I don't know if our country is ready to go to war with you, but that's none of my business. You asked me if I was ready for war, and I have the same question to ask you. Then, are you ready to be destroyed together? You. Williams was so angry that he couldn't say anything. Charlotte said, don't always talk about war to scare people. China is no longer the China of the past. We have ghost drones and Jingke drones, and we are producing the most advanced super fighter jets and bombers. What do you have to win against us? Your navy is indeed the most powerful in the world, but don't forget what happened in the southern waters. If I wanted to blow up your aircraft carrier Washington, I'm afraid it would have rusted at the bottom of the sea. Williams was silent again, whether he was willing or not. He had to admit that the era of the United States dominating the world was over. Because of the Rima Group, China's military strength had improved by leaps and bounds. Although it couldn't be said that it had completely caught up with the United States, it had actually surpassed the United States in some aspects. If the two countries went to war, who knew what the result would be? Once the two countries went to war, there would be no winner. But one thing was destined, and that was the United States would lose its position as the world's overlord. The United States would also lose its position as the world's currency, and that was a result that the United States was unwilling to accept. In such a situation, threatening China with war was actually wishful thinking. Mr. Williams, don't you have anything to say? Charlotte said, if you don't have anything to say, then I'll hang up. Tell me, how did you break through the blockade of the Transcendent system? A picture suddenly appeared on the screen of the multifunctional watch. In the picture, an old white woman and a young black man were walking towards a hotel. The old woman was holding the black man's arm, and they looked very intimate. Then, Super Xiaoqian appeared, pointed to the picture, and said, his wife is cheating. Shintu Tianyin's jaw almost dropped to the quilt. Charlotte was also speechless, but he still took the gift from Super Xiaoqian. He said, Transcendent system? Do you believe that I won't put the picture of your wife cheating on the world websites? What did you say? Bastard. Williams was like an angry hound. His voice was completely roaring. Charlotte said, check your email. I'll send it to you now. Super Xiaoqian followed suit. 10 seconds later, Williams's voice came from the multifunctional watch. Your request hasn't changed, right? Yes, it hasn't, Charlotte said. Keston, tell him to come to China. You want to kill him, don't you? No, I just want to talk to him. How can I believe you? You don't have a choice. I've already exposed the evidence. If someone uses the same method to attack America, don't blame me for not warning you. Charlotte's voice turned cold. Take down all the evidence. I'll call the president now. Once I have the results, I'll let you know immediately. Williams compromised. If I were you, I'd take the time to make the call and think of a way to convince your president instead of having me test some evidence. All right, wait for my call. Williams hung up. Victory. Super Xiaoqian made a V sign. She's so interesting. Shinda Tianyin was amused by Super Xiaoqian. She nudged Charlotte's waist. Hubby, how did you design it? Charlotte smiled. That's very complicated. I won't be able to explain it in 3 days and 3 nights. You won't understand, even if I explain it. Shinta Tianyin rolled her eyes at Xia Lei. I know you're good. You're good at everything. I admit defeat. Is this okay? So saying, she reached out and tickled Xia Lei's armpit. Ha ha ha. Xia Lei laughed. Shinta Tianyin held on to him. Hey, I'm still here. What are you guys doing? You have to be careful. Strictly speaking, I'm still an underage girl. Super Xiaoqian's voice rang out. Shinta Tianyin suddenly realized something and hurriedly pulled up the blanket that had slid down to cover her big white breasts. Charlotte said, If you talk nonsense again, I'll turn off the watch. No, I'll disappear immediately. I'll appear again when Williams calls. Super Xiaoqian really disappeared. It seemed like she really didn't want to see those inappropriate scenes. Shinta Tianyin and Charlotte didn't do anything inappropriate. They just hugged each other and talked. Hubby, who's that Keston? Why do you want to see him? Shinta Tianyin asked. Charlotte said, He's the CEO of Lockheed Martin Corporation, Da Vinci's descendant. His family is very rich and can influence the political and economic direction of America. Shinta Tianyin opened her mouth slightly. He's actually Da Vinci's descendant? Unbelievable. A bitter smile appeared in the corners of Xia Lei's mouth. He didn't say the truth because Keston was a copy of Da Vinci. In a sense, Keston was actually Da Vinci. However, he didn't want Shinta Tianyin to know the truth. He wanted her and her 2 children to live in a simple environment. What do you want to talk to him about? Charlotte reached out and hugged her big white boobs. Don't ask. Some things are better left unknown. I want you and your children to be happy and safe. Do you understand? Shinta Tianyin nodded. Then let's talk about the past. When did you fall in love with me? It was probably the second time I saw you. You were so arrogant then. Didn't I give birth to your children? The two of them chatted casually about the past. Their memories at this time were beautiful and there were no negative things. After about half an hour, Super Xiaoqian appeared again. Master, Williams is calling. Do you want to answer? Yes, Charlotte said. Then take your hand off Sister Tianyin's butt. All I see is white. Also, do you want to make a call on Sister Tianyin's butt? Super Xiaoqian's voice sounded. Charlotte was speechless. Charlotte's hand moved away from Shinta Tianyin's big white boobs. William's voice sounded from the multifunction watch. Mr. Xia, I've already talked to Mr. President. Then, Mr. President called Keston personally. I'll tell you the result now. After a pause, he said, On the first day of the new year in China, which is also the first day of the new year in China, Keston will be coming to China. That long? Charlotte frowned. It was too different from what he had expected. Then there's no other way. Williams said, It's already good enough that Keston agreed to come to China to meet you. You should be grateful. If you agree, you will revoke what you left on the internet. If you don't agree, then there's nothing we can do. Charlotte was silent for a moment. Deal. But I have a condition for revoking what I left on the internet. What condition? Cut off all cooperation with the FA organization and declare the FA organization a terrorist organization. That's not a problem. I can make the decision. That's settled then. I look forward to working with you. Williams hung up the phone. Yin FO and Augustman were dead, and the FA organization was being hunted down by its agents. All that was left was a leader who had never shown himself. The FA organization had lost its value to the United States. To Charlotte, the FA organization, the once invincible opponent, had fallen. Who was the leader of the FA organization? The answer lay with his father, Xia Changhe. Xia Shui and Ryu Yungnam were getting married. Would his father come back? Chapter 12:14. Although Super Xiaoqian deleted all the videos, texts, recordings, and pictures from the Rose Queen account, she didn't delete the one she sent to the media. Those who had viewed the evidence also downloaded and reposted it to a certain extent. Therefore, the whole world was shocked the next day. Hindustan Times, a slum was bombed, but the police told us it was a terrorist attack. Who are the terrorists? It's the people in military uniforms who are paid by the country. What is the hellhound virus? It has already broken out in our country, killing women, children, and our elderly, but we have been deceived. The green algae company actually has the capital of Lockheed Martin Corporation to secretly research the hellhound virus and experiment on living people. We need an explanation. The Times, what is the leader of the world trying to do? India, Nigeria, and Mexico have broken out of the hellhound virus. The infected will go crazy in just a few minutes, attacking and eating any living target. The human world has reached a very dangerous time. We can't help but link the hellhound virus to The Walking Dead. Will the world really become like that? Compared to the anger and accusations of the Indian media, the United Kingdom, as the younger brother of the U.S., was more gentle and polite. The parts related to the U.S. were skimmed over, but the parts about the hellhound virus were dug deeper to divert attention. Der Spiegel, what is the world police trying to do? Illegally stationing troops in Nigeria to control the hellhound virus outbreak. Controlling biopharmaceutical companies in India to secretly research the hellhound virus and even experiment on living people. Is a next step to do something to Mexico? Is this the U.S. the world needs? At least not in Germany or Europe. We need an explanation from the U.S., a real explanation, not a lie. Russia's Gazeta. The U.S., the world's strongest country, has always been above the entire world. Building military bases around the world under the banner of freedom, sending warships and fighter jets while exploiting the world with U.S. dollars. The people of Ukraine and the Middle East have been devastated by the color revolutions. The oil price has finally gone down, and Russia's economy has also regressed. But is the U.S. satisfied? No. Now they have extended their hands to the hellhound virus and want to cooperate with the devil labor daily. The U.S. is secretly researching the hellhound virus in an attempt to control the entire world. This is an enemy of all mankind. The conspiracy of the U.S. will be crushed by the iron fists of the people. The Great. There were many more similar news. Yesterday, the world was very quiet. Today, the world was like a powder keg. The United States, on the other hand, remained silent amidst the waves of finger-pointing, without giving any explanation. Accusations could not bring about any substantial loss of interest to the United States, and no country dared to fire a cannonball into the territory of the United States. It was like a group of children surrounding a world champion and criticizing him, but none of them dared to wave their fists at him. You could blame anyone, and no one would hurt you. However, wielding a sword or a spear was an entirely different matter. Wielding a sword or a spear against an opponent you could not defeat required great courage. In the secret chamber of the Holy Thunder Church, Super Xiaoqian played the video, audio, and photo evidence that Charlotte brought back from India on the computer, and then appeared in the image of a female general. She seemed to be partial to this image. The green algae company was razed to the ground. "I guessed it was you," Qian-jun said, looking at Charlotte with respect. "Why didn't you bring us along?" Akiko Tsukino asked. Charlotte said, "The hellhound virus is not an ordinary virus. Once infected, there is no cure. I dare to enter the outbreak area because my body has a strong immunity. You guys, I dare not let you take this risk." Engumi Khan sighed. "What's wrong with this world? Will we be destroyed by this virus?" Charlotte shook his head. "I don't know. I gathered you here today to ask you to do one thing." "What is it?" Giovanna's voice came. "The Peachland Plan," Charlotte said. A projector in the secret chamber suddenly started, and a picture appeared on the snow-white wall. Everyone's eyes were focused on the picture. It was a beautiful valley surrounded by mountains. The mountains were extremely high above sea level. The top of the mountain was covered with snow, but there were dense forests on the mountainside. The valley at the foot of the mountain was covered with green grass, and flowers were as dense as the stars in the sky. What a beautiful place. What is this place? Stella could not help but ask. Her eyes were full of yearning. Super Xiaoqian's image also appeared on the wall. Dressed in military uniform, she pointed at the valley with a baton and said, "This is a valley in the uninhabited Xi province. It has no name and has not been discovered yet. Master has named this place Shangri-La. Your mission is to go there and build a base." Everyone's eyes were focused on Charlotte again. Their eyes were full of surprise and confusion. Charlotte said, "Yes, it's true. This is the Peachland Plan. There is no vaccine for the hellhound virus. With the current human population and the convenience of transportation, the risk of a full-blown outbreak is very high. Once something like that happens, the city is the most dangerous place. Don't expect the countryside to be safe. The countryside is not safe either. We need a secluded place to protect our families and preserve our strength. This, Erdemo looked very serious. Is it really the end of the world? Saimu bitterly smiled. Boss, are you sure this isn't The Walking Dead? Charlotte was silent for a moment before he said, according to my calculations, the probability of that happening has reached 70%. This wasn't The Walking Dead, nor was it Resident Evil, but a bloody reality. You haven't been to that slum, but I have. I saw a father and his brother do that kind of beastly thing to his daughter and then want to eat her. People infected with the hellhound virus will have the speed and strength of a cheetah in a few minutes. Their bite force is definitely that of a cheetah and a tiger. Even you can only deal with a few at the same time. If there are more, you will also become food. If I hadn't seen through the death plan of the United States and the FA organization, Kyoto would have been invaded and out of control by the virus. In the death plan, the Rema group is also a target. If I hadn't destroyed the plan of the United States and the FA organization, I'm afraid there would be no normal people here. There was a depressing atmosphere in the secret room. This time, the opponent was not the CIA agents, nor the special forces of the United States, but the invisible virus. Whether it was the super soldiers of the Zodiac team or the 4 loyal and fearless female knights supported by their faith, they couldn't fight against this invisible enemy. Preparing for a rainy day and making preparations in advance was a very wise choice at the moment. Charlotte broke the depressing silence. This place was chosen by Xiaoqian after analysis and calculation, as well as the local resources. It is very suitable for our Taoyuan plan. Believe me, I'm not asking you to be construction workers, but to protect you and our strength. You must maintain the highest degree of vigilance. Once there is a crisis of a virus attack, immediately move my wife and children to Taoyuan. Akiko Tsukino asked, Boss, where are we going to build a base? What about you? Charlotte said, I still have things to take care of. I won't go for the time being. You still want to build fighters and bombers at a time like this? Akiko Tsukino couldn't understand. Charlotte said, I've finished the design of the Yama fighter and the Kuan-Pung bomber, and some of the core parts have been processed. Sylvia is the top mechanic in the world, second only to me. With the help of the Thunder Dragon Smart Machine tool, she can do the work that required me to do in the past. So, I won't be doing much in this area. The main reason I'm staying is to investigate the truth of the hellhound virus in Kirsten. He has the answers I want, and I have to meet him. There was another reason that he didn't say, and that was that his death was getting closer and closer. He had to face the prehistoric one and Zhu Xianyue, and neither of these two opponents was someone that the Zodiac team and the 4 female knights could compete with. He didn't want their sacrifice to be in vain. It would be worthless. Okay, let's go, Qian Jun said. He knew some of the truth, and he understood Charlotte's arrangement. Charlotte smiled. Then let's do it. You have $10 billion to use. The members of the Zodiac team and the 4 female knights were dumbfounded. $10 billion? Was he going to build the Apang Palace in that valley? The answer was soon revealed. Super Xiaoqian cast a new projection on the wall. It wasn't the Apang Palace, but a steel fortress. It was a 20-meter-high steel wall with a domed dome. Under the dome was a town, farmland, water reservoirs, hospitals, schools, warehouses, and military warehouses. There were air defense systems at the 4 corners of the fortress, and military bases were beside and inside the fortress. On the ground were Zeet's 100 main battle tanks and scavenger infantry fighting vehicles. In addition, there were Jinka drones, Spectre drones, as well as the Yama fighter and the Kuan-Pung fighter. The Peach Blossom in this plan was simply a small military kingdom. Long live Allah. I like this place. Simon smiled. Huh, Alessio said with a smile. This is God's town. I'm going to build it. I guess the construction staff must be our brothers and sisters in the rescue society, right? Giovanna said. Charlotte said, You're right. Although this town is a backup, we need to keep it absolutely confidential. All the construction staff must be our own people. No problem. Leave this task to us, the Rescue Association, Giovanna said. After making the arrangements, Charlotte left the Holy Thunder Church. On the way, Charlotte took out his satellite phone and dialed his father, Xiaochang's number. Beep, 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 beep. No one answered the phone. Xiaolei furrowed his brows. Why didn't he answer the phone? What was his identity? The answers to these questions lay with Xia Changhe, but he didn't show up or answer the phone. Chapter 12:15. Would the world reach the end of the world? Charlotte wasn't the only one who was worried. Many people were worried as well. The whole world was reporting on the crisis of the Helldog virus. The world hadn't reached the end of the world yet, but public opinion had. Affected by public opinion, the capital market was in a pessimistic mood, and the global stock market really fell. The more chaotic the market was, the easier it was to make money. During this time, Super Xiaoqian didn't just make money in the U.S. stock market. Remember, all the stock markets had traces of her, and they were all her farms. The funds in Charlotte's account kept increasing. A terrible fact was that the money Rema Group earned wasn't as much as the money Super Xiaoqian earned for him. Such a thing was hard to accept, but it was the truth. In the current world, it was better to engage in real estate than to engage in industry, and it was better to engage in capital than to engage in real estate. In this world, who could play capital better than Super Xiaoqian? Perhaps even 100 Buffets tied together couldn't compare to one finger of Super Xiaoqian. A month after the Helldog virus crisis, in the office, Super Xiaoqian emerged from the multifunction watch on Charlotte's wrist. This time, it wasn't a flat surface appearance, but a holographic projection on Charlotte's wrist. This was Charlotte's recognition and reward for her work this month. He personally modified this multifunction watch, and only this watch in the whole world had such a function. If it was mass-produced, such a watch would undoubtedly become a popular product around the world, just like the iPhone. However, Charlotte didn't have such interest. One reason was that he didn't have extra time and energy, and another reason was that he didn't care about the small amount of money now. Super Xiaoqian, who was dressed as a female general, walked down from Charlotte's wrist and stood on the desk. The first time she appeared in the holographic projection, she had the same height as a real person, about 1.8 meters. Her face was delicate and delicate. Her chest was full and firm, and her buttocks were round and perky. Her slender waist and slender legs formed a graceful curve. She had the characteristics of Liang Xiao, Long Bing, Fan Fan, Jiang Rui, Tang Yin, Shinda Tianin, Anina, Sylvia, and Salami. Her appearance and body were perfect, possessing impeccable beauty and sexiness. If she was real, she would be the most beautiful woman in the world. Master, as of now, your personal wealth is $2,014,314,958 According to the Forbes list, you're already the richest person in the world. In the office building of Rema Group's headquarters, Super Xiaoqian reported to Charlotte, and then she added, Bill Gates is much poorer than you. My master has become the richest person in the world. How do you feel? Charlotte smiled bitterly. I don't feel anything special. Instead, I feel a little weird. Is it because you didn't work hard to earn this money? It belongs to you for no reason. Super Xiaoqian said. Charlotte said, that's part of the reason. It feels like stealing. I stole other people's money, and then I became the richest person in the world. What a strange feeling. My master, the reason why Europe is so rich is because it plundered the world's wealth during the colonial period. The reason why America is so rich is because it kidnapped the world's economy with US dollars. The reason why you're so rich is because I worked hard day and night to earn money for you. Don't you know how hard it is to invest in stocks? You don't praise me, and you say that I'm stealing. This is a capital game. I play the game well and always win. Can this be considered stealing? Charlotte smiled. Okay. I was wrong, okay? Xiaoqian did well. Xiaoqian is the prettiest. Super Xiaoqian laughed. Charlotte said, Look, in order to reward you, Didn't I modify this watch for you? You can now appear in the real world. Master is so nice. Super Xiaoqian came over and gave Charlotte a hug. Her body was virtual, and of course, her hug was also virtual. When her body touched Charlotte, the part that touched disappeared. It gave people the feeling that she had drilled into Charlotte's body. Charlotte also felt strange. It wasn't the hug, but the level of artificial intelligence of Super Xiaoqian. He created her. Apart from her body being fake, what was the difference between her and a real woman? Master, you receive a message from Peach Garden. Super Xiaoqian said. What message? Let me see. Charlotte said. On the desk, Super Xiaoqian disappeared, and a holographic projection video began to play. In the valley in the Himalayas, dozens of construction machines were operating. There were bulldozers, forklifts, and excavators. Some brothers from the rescue group were unloading materials for the construction of the base from a Yun 20 that was parked on the temporary runway. The whole valley was a busy scene. Yelena was in the video. She had a smile on her face. Boss, do you see it? Behind me is our new home. Charlotte said, when will it be built? Yelena said, you gave me a lot of money. I think it can be done in a year. In a year, his time was up. He didn't know if he could see Xanadu with his own eyes. However, when he heard Yelena say that it could be built in a year, his heart was still gratified. One more thing. Yelena said, I received a signal from Dad. What? Charlotte was stunned. Yelena said, you know, we have a secret code to contact each other. He is nearby, and I'm going to find him. Before I leave, I want to say hello to you. What's going on? Charlotte was puzzled. During this time, I called him almost every day, but he never answered. He even turned off his satellite phone. Why would he contact you? Yelena was silent for a moment and said, I don't know. I will only know when I see him. He doesn't answer your phone or contact you. I think he must have his own reasons. He is such a person, and no one could see through him. He left you a message. What did he ask you to meet him? Charlotte asked. Yelena said, I don't know the exact location at the moment, but according to his signal, it should be a mountain in the Himalayas. Have you ever thought about why he would meet you in such a place? Yelena shook her head. Sorry, bro. I really don't know. If I knew the reason why he wanted to see me, I would definitely tell you. Don't you have any guesses? I do have this. I guess he must have encountered some trouble. It's not convenient to find you, so he came to me to help him do something. Yelena said. Charlotte thought for a moment and said, if you see him, help me convey a message. What do you want to say to him? I want to see him before Xia Shui gets married. Right, you tell him that Xia Shui will get married on the first day of the first month. If he still has this family in his heart, he will come back. If not, then what? Forget it. Just pretend that I didn't say the last sentence. Charlotte sighed. What he wanted to say was, if he doesn't have this family in his heart, then he doesn't have to come back. But to say this to his father, it was really disgraceful. Although his father, Xia Changhe, didn't fulfill his responsibilities as a father, he made him who he was. If his father didn't give him the AE capsule, I'm afraid he would still be moving bricks on a construction site, right? The grace of upbringing, the grace of rebirth, no matter which one it is greater than the sky and deeper than the earth. Okay, I will pass it on to him. Is there anything else you want me to convey? No, that's all. Okay, goodbye. Yelena turned off the camera. Her image and the Xanadu behind her disappeared. Super Xiaoqian appeared. Master, can you build me an exclusive brain in Xanadu? I am wandering in the internet. The feeling of not having a home is so sad. Charlotte smiled bitterly. Well, I promise you, I will build you a super brain in Xanadu. Master, you are so nice. Super Xiaoqian rushed to Charlotte. Her body once again merged into Charlotte's body. The brain she wanted was actually a supercomputer. Such a request was not a big deal to Charlotte. He could easily get it done. Charlotte returned to Ping and residence. There were 5 women and 4 children. Pingon Street never seemed to lack laughter, and it was always so lively. Dad! Dad! In the front garden, Xiaolong saw Charlotte come back and ran to Charlotte happily. Xia Jianghe and Xia Fan followed behind him. Liang Jiayu was in another corner. Liang Zhengchun was teaching him how to do Wing Chun. The little guy learned it well and was very serious. He didn't join in the fun. Liang Xiao walked over and called out to Charlotte from afar. "Hubby, why are you home so early today? Are you done with the company?" Charlotte picked up Charlotte, Xia Jianghe, and Xia Fan and said, "I'm done with the company. I came here to discuss something with you." The women all came over. Tang Yuyin, who was pregnant, said, "Hubby, what's the matter?" Charlotte said, "Our Xanadu has been under construction for a month. I want to go and have a look. I'll be back in 2 or 3 days." Long Bing said, "I want to go too." Charlotte said, "That place is the roof of the world. The oxygen is thin. Children can't go there. If you go, who will take care of the children?" Long Bing was a little disappointed, but she still said, "Then you go alone. Be careful." She was still so understanding. Liang Xiao originally wanted to say that she would go with Charlotte, but Long Bing said that Charlotte should go alone, so she couldn't say anything. In fact, they all wanted to go out with Charlotte and see the beautiful scenery closest to heaven. But if Charlotte took someone with him or not, they would inevitably have objections. So they didn't go. Although Long Bing didn't talk much, she was very smart in dealing with things in this family. "When will you leave?" Fan Fan asked. "I've asked Xiao Qian to help me contact the pilot. When he is ready, I'll leave," Charlotte said. As soon as his voice fell, Xiao Qian appeared from the multifunction watch. "My master, the pilot is ready. Please go to the helipad of Holy Thunder Church to board the plane." The appearance of Super Xiao Qian didn't cause any strange reaction. The women and children of Ping and residents had long known of her existence. And Xiao Qian. Xiao Long reached out to grab Super Xiao Qian's breasts. "Feed me milk." Super Xiao Qian seemed to be afraid of Xiao Long, the milk demon king, and disappeared with a whoosh. The yard was suddenly filled with laughter. Chapter 12:16. 5 hours later, in the Western Province, a helicopter landed in the wilderness. After dropping off a person, it took off and flew in the direction of Lessa. "We're here." Charlotte looked at the rolling, snow-capped mountains in the distance and said excitedly, "Xiao Qian, can you come out from here?" A second later, a woman in a military uniform appeared beside Charlotte. With a height of 1.8 meters, a curvaceous figure, and a heroic military uniform, she suddenly became the most eye-catching person on the grassland. Super Xiao Qian opened her arms and turned around on the grassland. Her movements were like a bird spreading its wings and flying on the grassland. "Grassland, I'm finally here. I like grassland. Why aren't there any cows or sheep?" She was still so naughty and even a little neurotic. Charlotte shrugged helplessly. "I didn't ask you to come out to catch sheep. Give me the map. I want to go to Xanadu. Why don't you let the helicopter take us there directly?" Super Xiao Qian looked a little curious, but when she asked this question, she still released a satellite map and marked the location of Xanadu on the map, as well as the shortest and fastest route to Xanadu. Charlotte looked at the map, memorized the route, and said, "I don't want them to know that I'm here. I want to see my father, and he's the most difficult person in the world to follow, so I have to be careful." "I see. But I want to tell you that there will be no signal after entering the Himalayas. I will disappear. I can't help you do anything. You can only rely on yourself," Super Xiao Qian said, with a hint of worry in her eyes. In fact, as it existed longer and longer, she learned more and more things, and she became more and more like a person, a woman. "Well, I've memorized the route." Charlotte walked toward the snowy peak in the distance. According to the map drawn by Super Xiao Qian, he needed to climb over the snowy peak and then walk for about 20 kilometers before he could see Xanadu. The helicopter could actually send him close to the Shangri-La, but the Shangri-La had an air defense radar, so it would be easy to detect the helicopter. If his father, Xia Changhe, was near Xanadu, he might have seen the helicopter and left in advance. Therefore, he was willing to climb steep snowy peaks and take difficult mountain paths just to see Xia Changhe. Why did Papa want to see Yelena? This question was still lingering in Charlotte's mind until now, floating up and down and lingering. Super Xiao Qian followed Xia, lay on foot. At one moment, she was skipping, and at another moment, she was running forward. In the end, she actually turned herself into a sheep, running around Charlotte while making ba-ba sounds. Hiking in the deserted, uninhabited area of the western province, with Super Xiaoqian, the journey was not lonely. They crossed mountains all the way, and at midnight, Charlotte came to the top of a mountain. Standing at the top of the mountain and looking down, it was a canyon surrounded by mountains. A military and civilian base was under construction. Even at night, there were several construction machines working, and it was a busy scene. That was Xanadu, the refuge that Charlotte built for his wife, children, his family, and friends. After visual inspection, Charlotte determined the straight-line distance between his mountain peak and Xanadu. The accurate data was 5,122, 32 meters. In the past, such a distance had exceeded his effective visual range, but now it was not the limit of his visual range at all. He could easily see the situation in the entire base. After observing the entire Xanadu, Charlotte awakened the ability of X-ray vision and scanned the residential area of Xanadu. More than 5,000 meters, this was a super long distance, and it had a certain impact on the X-ray scanning ability of both eyes, but he could still see the situation in the temporary residence. Soon, Charlotte saw the members of the Zodiac team, Akiko Tsukino, Ingami Khan, Simo, Alessio, Qianjun, Giovanna, Stella, Teresa, and Rosa, but he did not see Yelena. Charlotte then did a second X-ray scan, but he still did not see Yelena. Oh no, did I come a step too late? And she has already left in advance. Charlotte was a little regretful in his heart, because he was worried that Yelena or his father would find out, so he did not ask when Yelena would go to see his father, but he estimated that it would be at night. So he rushed here by helicopter, but he did not expect that he would still be a step too late. At this moment, Super Xiaoqian suddenly came out of the multifunction watch. It was not a female general, but a sheep. Charlotte looked at the big fat sheep standing beside him speechlessly, but he knew that this place was covered by Xanadu's signal. "Ma'am," Super Xiaoqian sheep meowed, and then said, "Master, are you looking for the woman named Yelena?" "Yes. Do you know where she went?" "Of course I know." Super Xiaoqian said, "There are surveillance cameras in Xanadu. In the security system, there is also my territory. I can pull up all the surveillance videos for you at any time. Then quickly find out where she left from." And when she left, Charlotte was a little anxious. There was almost no time to wait. Charlotte made a request, and she gave the result as if there was no time in between the execution of the request. The image of Yelena appeared in the air. She left Xanadu, carried her equipment bag, and walked in the direction of the west. She left at 10 o'clock in the evening. More than 2 hours had passed since then. She went west, and she's been gone for more than 2 hours. Can we catch up with her? Super Xiaoqian said. Charlotte said, yes. As soon as his voice fell, he was already running. In such a harsh environment, even Yelena wouldn't be able to go far. As long as he followed her direction, he would be able to catch up with her in a short period of time. Because he was originally on the mountain peak, and Yelena still needed time to climb up the mountain peak, as long as she found the right direction. In 2 hours, Yelena could only climb the mountain peak on the west side. The Himalayas, shrouded in darkness, were continuous, like a giant dragon whose head and tail could not be seen, and one could not see the whole thing at a glance. The cold wind blew with snowflakes, and the snow on the mountain was getting thicker and thicker. "Master, I'm so cold." Super Xiaoqian, who had turned into a big fat sheep, ran in front of Charlotte. As Charlotte's arms moved, she was in the sky, and then on the ground, and the scene was extremely strange. "Why do you have to become a sheep?" Charlotte couldn't take it anymore. "Well, I can see that you're racist towards sheep." The big white sheep flying in the sky looked back at Charlotte, its eyes full of resentment. Charlotte, the big white sheep that was flying in the sky, landed on the ground, and in an instant, she turned into a sports lady. He was wearing a tight sports singlet, a pair of sports shorts, and a pair of New Balance running shoes, which were the latest model of Firebird. As she ran, the wonderful pair of plump breasts bounced up and down, as if they could jump out of the thin white sports vest at any time. The granules of the peak of fullness were clearly visible, be it in shape or color. In addition, the sports shorts wrapped around the round and plump white ball. Trembling, her allure was enough to straighten a bent steel pipe. She exposed her flesh at the slightest disagreement. That Xiaoqian. Charlotte wanted to say something, but stopped. Super Xiaoqian turned around and ran backward. She didn't have a body, so she could run however she wanted without any difficulty. But because she changed her running posture, it caused Xia Lei quite a bit of confusion because her pair of plump breasts were bouncing up and down in front of Xia Lei, bouncing up and down. Between her legs, the mature area wrapped around by the white sports shorts was clearly outlined, and that shape could make people have the urge to commit a crime. Fortunately, she didn't exist. If that was true, the situation would be even more complicated. My master, what are you trying to say? Super Xiaoqian's voice was soft and velvety. Charlotte smiled bitterly. You better turn into a sheep. I actually like sheep. You're lying. Charlotte. In fact, he had shot himself in the foot. When designing Super Xiaoqian, not only did he extract the physical advantages of his women, but he also created the personalities of his women in Super Xiaoqian's brain. That was why she was so mischievous and clingy. An hour later, Charlotte went around to the top of the mountain on the west side of the canyon. The mountain was covered in snow, and the snowflakes that fell from the sky buried everything, including Yelena's footprints. Charlotte climbed onto a rock and looked into the distance. Super Xiaoqian didn't stay idle either. She directly released a holographic satellite map and drew the two most likely routes that Yelena would take on the map. These two routes were drawn according to the terrain. If there were no special circumstances, Yelena would definitely choose one of them. Master, the left or the right route? You choose one, Super Xiaoqian said. Charlotte had already completed the ultra-long-range X-ray scanning and reconnaissance. He stepped on the left route and sprinted. My master, are you sure you're on the left route? Super Xiaoqian appeared in front of Charlotte. No matter how fast Charlotte ran, she was always in front of Charlotte. It was just that with the swing of Charlotte's arm, she was in the sky and on the ground. 2 kilometers passed in the blink of an eye, and Super Xiaoqian disappeared. This was deep into the Himalayas, and there was no signal. Charlotte stopped on a hillside, and there was a pile of stones in front of him. Several stones were piled up into a triangular shape, and the top one was a bar-shaped stone, one end of which pointed west. This was the signal left by his father. Charlotte continued to chase west, and after about a kilometer, he saw a white figure in front of him. It was the back of a woman wearing snowproof clothes. She was carrying an equipment bag, and her feet were on a sled, and she was sliding very fast. Yelena appeared. No wonder I chased after her for such a long distance. So she used a sled. Charlotte chased after her. When he saw Yelena, Charlotte slowed down. He had to keep a distance. He thought that Yelena was the chicken of the Zodiac team, an expert at observing the environment, and the slightest movement would alarm her. If she was alarmed and found out, it would be really hard for him to explain why he followed her. He thought that no matter how he explained, this behavior would make Yelena think that he didn't trust her. One was sliding fast, and the other was deliberately slowing down. The straight-line distance between the two was quickly pulled to 4 kilometers. At this distance, Charlotte sped up and maintained the same speed as Yelena. His eyes were also locked onto Yelena, as well as the area in front of her that was at least 2 kilometers away. An hour later, a towering mountain rose from the ground among the peaks. Although its height was not comparable to Mount Everest, it was the highest in this area. Charlotte looked into the distance and estimated his height to be 6,678 meters, more than 2 kilometers less than Mount Everest's 8,844 meters. What mountain is this? Charlotte asked subconsciously. Super Xiaoqian did not appear, and there was no signal in this place, so she could not appear at all. At this time, Yelena took off the sled on her feet and then climbed up the mountain. The meeting place was on this mountain. Xia Lei's heart was filled with confusion as he followed. Chapter 12:17. The precipitous peak extended from the foot of the mountain, and the top was covered by clouds and fog. Even with his extraordinary eyes, he couldn't see certain parts of the mountain. However, Yelena was always in Xia Lei's field of vision and never left. When Charlotte followed her to the foot of the mountain, Yelena had already climbed a third of the mountain. Her speed was already very slow, and she couldn't speed up. After all, this was a forbidden area for humans. Even at the foot of the mountain, where the wind was light, the temperature was as low as minus 30 degrees Celsius. The higher one climbed, the lower the temperature would be. The highest place would probably be minus 40 or even minus 50 degrees Celsius. In such an environment, human strength was insignificant in front of nature. A little carelessness could lead to death. What is he trying to do? Why did he ask Yelena to meet him at this place? If he simply wanted Yelena to do something for him, he could have used the satellite phone to contact her. If he didn't want to know, he could have told Yelena not to tell me. Yelena would have done it. After all, the members of the Zodiac Squad were all adopted and trained by him. Charlotte couldn't help but think about these questions as he climbed the mountain. No matter how he thought about it, he couldn't understand what was happening in front of him. In his sight, Yelena stopped. She seemed to be exhausted, and she stood behind a rock to catch her breath. Charlotte didn't stop and continued to climb. His body had entered a comprehensive evolution, and his body had already lost a part of its body temperature. He couldn't feel the cold at all. Moreover, his physical strength was always abundant. With his current condition and ability, he could even climb Mount Everest without a problem, let alone climb an unknown mountain in the night. Yelena rested for 10 minutes and continued to climb. At this time, Charlotte had shortened the distance between them. He was only about 500 meters away from her. If the old Xia Changhe appeared, he was confident that he could rush up and intercept him. His father still hadn't appeared. A pile of stones entered Charlotte's sight. It was a signal left by his father. The stone strip stood upright among the stones at the foot of the mountain, pointing in the direction of the peak. Does he really want Yelena to climb to the top of the mountain to meet him? He's really crazy. Even though it was his father, Charlotte couldn't help but complain. Even he had a hard time climbing such a steep snowy peak, let alone Yelena. Half an hour later, Yelena finally climbed halfway up the mountain. She stopped again. She put down her gear bag. However, right after that, her body fell to the ground with a loud bang, and she never got up again. What happened? There were no gunshots, nor were there any enemies who attacked her, but she fell. Damn it! Charlotte suddenly sped up and ran toward the place where Yelena had fallen. The steep hillside was like flat ground under his feet, and his speed was comparable to that of a cheetah. A few minutes later, Charlotte arrived at the place where Yelena had fallen. Xia Changhe hadn't appeared yet. His appearance would most likely cause this operation to fail, but he couldn't care less. Yelena was lying in the snow. If he didn't save her, even if she wasn't shot, she could freeze to death in a few minutes. Yelena was lying on the ground, her face buried in the snow. There was no blood coming out of her body. He didn't know if she had fainted from exhaustion or if she had suddenly fallen sick. Charlotte came to Yelena's side and picked her up from the snow. Yelena's face was covered in snow, and her eyebrows were frozen by the wind. Her eyes were closed, and her breathing was weak. Yelena? Yelena, what's wrong? Charlotte shook Yelena's shoulder, trying to wake her up. Yelena didn't respond at all. Charlotte moved his gaze to Yelena's leg, and he suddenly understood what had happened. There was a tranquilizer needle in Yelena's right leg. The tail of the tranquilizer needle had wings that split the air, so it could be seen as a needle-shaped dart. Tranquilizing a person in an environment of minus 40 degrees Celsius was no different from killing them. Did Dad arrange to meet Yelena here just to kill her? Get out here! Get out! Charlotte suddenly lost control. He stood up with Yelena in his arms, and then he roared. The cold wind howled, and his voice was weakened by the wind, but it could still travel far. His eyes quickly searched the environment around him, and then he stopped in one direction. A white figure walked out from behind a large rock. He was holding a modified light sniper rifle in his hand, and it wasn't hard to see that it was the light sniper rifle that fired the tranquilizer needle and hit Yelena. The white figure walked over. He was wearing a white camouflage suit, and he blended in with the environment. He had a white hood on his head, and there was also a white mask over his mouth. Only a pair of eyes were exposed, and his face couldn't be seen. However, the moment he appeared, Charlotte saw his face at a glance. He was Dad Xia Changhe. Xia Changhe walked over. Charlotte carried Yelena behind a rock and put her down. He put down the equipment bag on his back, and then took off his coat to cover Yelena's body. Dad, what are you trying to do? Charlotte faced Xia Changhe and said angrily, She's Yelena. She's like your daughter. Are you going to kill her? What? Xia Changhe took off his mask and hood and said calmly, Can't you see? The person I want to meet is you. I have my reasons for doing this. My conversation with you can't be heard by anyone. So, I have to let Yelena sleep. Don't worry. She has received professional training. She can sleep in the Siberia of the grotto heaven wearing a vest. If you want to talk to me, you can answer my call. I've been calling you every day for the past month. Why didn't you answer? I have my reasons. Then, tell me. Charlotte was a little out of control. There are only the two of us here. No one can hear our conversation. Xia Changhe was silent. Charlotte said excitedly, Do you know? Xia Long, Xia Jianghe, Xia Fan, and Liang Jiu have asked me more than once where Grandpa went, but I can't tell them. You have 2 grandchildren, and they all want to see you, but why don't you go home? Don't tell me you're worried that the Chinese government will investigate you. You're my father. No one in China will hurt you. When you calm down, we can talk. Xia Changhe said lightly. Charlotte was stunned for a moment. Xia Changhe's words were like a bucket of cold water poured on his head, cooling him down. Are you done? Xia Changhe asked. Charlotte smiled bitterly. I'm done. You can say it. What do you want to talk to me about? Share your adventure experience of abandoning your family and children? Do you know? Do you know how I felt when you left me and Xia Shui? Let me tell you, that feeling was like I was the only one left in the world, and it was very uncomfortable. In order to let Xia Shui go to school, I tore up my university admission letter and went to work in the construction site. Do you know how difficult those days were? I don't want to go through it again, but you're doing the same thing now. You hurt me and Xia Shui once, and now you want to do it again? Hurt more people. Tell me why. Xia Changhe was silent for a while before he said, No matter what happens, no matter what you experience, you have to believe me. Everything I do is for your own good. This was the answer given by Xia Changhe, which avoided all the questions. Xia Lei was infuriated. He sneered. You went through so much trouble to invite me here, just to say something like this to me? But even so, I won't be surprised because this is your style. I really want to know what Xia Shui and I are in your eyes as a father. And your grandson and granddaughter, what are they? Don't be emotional. You shouldn't have feelings. What did you say? Charlotte was stunned. You don't have much time left. What do you want to say? Charlotte looked straight into Xia Changhe's eyes. What he saw was a pair of calm eyes, without the slightest emotional fluctuations. What he saw was also a pair of unfathomable eyes, like the sea that couldn't be seen through. It was also at this moment that Xia Lei awakened the mysterious energy hidden within his body. He didn't want to steal the memory and information in his father's brain. Otherwise, he would have done it as soon as Xia Changhe appeared. He hoped that Xia Changhe would say it personally and give him the answer he wanted. Now it seemed that Xia Changhe wasn't willing, and he even said, You don't have much time left. He didn't have much time left, but this was his secret. He never told anyone. How did his father know? Coupled with what Yin Fo and Augustman said before, he couldn't control himself anymore. Even if it was his father, he wanted to know what secrets were hidden in his father's brain. The mysterious energy field was released and instantly surrounded Xia Changhe. However, the next second, Charlotte was stunned. There were no brain waves in the mysterious energy field, so he couldn't capture Xia Changhe's thoughts. He couldn't invade Xia Changhe's brain to steal the memory and information in his brain. At this moment, the shock in Charlotte's heart was indescribable. Xia Changhe said calmly, I know you have a lot of questions in your heart, but I don't think I came here to answer your questions. There are more important things waiting for you. Charlotte took 2 steps back and looked at Xia Chang'e cautiously. You? Who are you? After the probing of the energy field, Charlotte began to doubt his entire life. All along, he thought that his father, Xia Chang'e, was just a freelance agent in the underworld. Because of his miserable childhood, he struggled in the underworld and finally became a powerful man. He had a secret, but it should be a normal secret and definitely not this. Until now, there are only 3 people whose brains his energy field couldn't steal. One was the prehistoric one, the other was Zhu Xianyue, and the last one was Da Vinci's replica, Kirsten. A very simple but very cruel fact was placed in front of Charlotte. His father should be a normal person, but the father in front of him was definitely not. Who was he? This question was directed at his father. At this moment, Xia Lei's feelings were worse than death. Chapter 12:18. The cold wind whistled, carrying snowflakes as if it wanted to cover everything. The 2 men facing each other on the snowy mountain were like 2 statues, motionless. The father and son were facing each other, but there seemed to be a chasm under their feet that they could not cross. The 2 men looked at each other in silence. A son asked his father who he was. The answer to this question was not important. What was important was why this question existed. Awkwardness and suspicion spread between the 2 men. After a long while, Xia Zhang said, "Are you already suspecting me? I have never doubted you, but you want to force me down that path." Charlotte seemed to be in pain. "Tell me, are you my father? Is this answer important to you? Tell me." Charlotte roared. "If I said yes, would you still believe me? If I said no, would you believe me?" Xia Chang'e's tone was still flat, without the slightest emotional fluctuation. This answer was obviously not what Charlotte wanted. But if Xia Chang'e gave him an answer that he was afraid of, how should he face it? This was the situation. He wanted to know the answer, but he was afraid of the answer. "This question of yours seems very boring to me, and what you're doing now is also very boring." Xia Chang'e said, "What do you mean?" "Rema Group. You are researching and manufacturing fighter jets and bombers for China. Do you think you can change the fate of the world by creating the most advanced fighter jets and bombers? As you can see, the Hellhound virus is spreading. Do you think your fighter jets and bombers can solve the problem? The whole world is researching a vaccine against the Hellhound virus. I believe that humans will survive this crisis." Charlotte said. Xia Chang'e said, "Don't deceive yourself. If you believe that humans could develop a vaccine against the Hellhound virus, would you still build a paradise in this desolate place? You are building a refuge for your wife and children. You don't believe that humans can survive this crisis, but you want to convince me. Don't you think it's funny?" Enough. Charlotte lost control of his emotions again. "At least I know to build a shelter for my wife and child and think for them. But what are you doing? How many more things are you hiding from me? Tell me. You don't have much time left. Give up on those boring things. You have to become stronger. Only then will you have a chance of survival." "You know everything, don't you?" Xia Lei probed. This time, Xia Chang'e did not evade the question. He nodded. "Yes, I know everything. It is also for this reason that I have to do these things. You're always acting on your emotions. Your love for those women and your love for Huan Nation is childish and stupid in my eyes. You have more important things to do, because this is your destiny." Mission? What mission? Charlotte had always been concerned about his destiny, which was getting closer and closer to the end of his life. He had never felt that he had any mission. If he did, it would only be to help China become stronger, so that his wife and children could live the rest of their lives without worry. That was all. Your mission is... After a moment of silence, Xia Chang'e said, "Your mission is to unlock the secrets of the World Box and the Crystal Skull. But you can't do it with your current ability. You have to become stronger." This was the second time he said that he wanted Charlotte to become stronger. The World Box, the Crystal Skull, and even the AE capsule, these were all mysteries that Charlotte wanted to solve even in his dreams. But he had chased after them for so many years and sacrificed so much, until now, there was not a single valuable clue. Solving these mysteries was easier said than done. Is solving the mysteries of the world box and the crystal skull my mission? Charlotte smiled bitterly and shook his head. I don't think these are my mission. Are you abandoning your family and children for these? Why are these secrets so important to you? An ordinary person only had a short lifespan of a few decades or 100 years. Were these secrets hidden in the universe or is space-time really that important to him? Oomph, you're still as stubborn as ever, Xia Changhe said coldly. They're important to me for my own reasons. Then tell me your reasons. It's not time yet. When the time comes, you'll know everything. You can hate me now, but one day you'll understand me and even be grateful to me. Ha! Charlotte laughed, but in his heart, he wanted to cry. His father always avoided his key questions and didn't tell him the truth. Is this the kind of vigilance a father should have with his son? Enough. You can choose not to believe me. You can even hate me, but you can't not believe me. Xia Chang'e shouted at Charlotte. Tonight, I want you to give up those boring people and your career and do the right thing. You want me to give up my wife and children and Rema group? Yes, this is why I asked you to come here. Leave your wife and children in your Rema group. Your wife and children can live well without you. You've laid the foundation for Rema group, and it will continue to grow. As for your motherland, whether it lives or dies, I'm not important to you at all. Give up, my son. Become stronger, accept your fate, and complete your mission. Xia Chang'e said emotionally. You can go and do what you like. Charlotte calmed down. I can't give up the people you want me to give up. My love for my motherland is beyond your imagination. You can choose not to understand me. And in fact, I don't expect you to understand me. You've seen me, and you've said what you wanted to say. So, let's part ways here. Xia Chang'e looked at Charlotte. His eyes were cold, and there was a hint of anger. Charlotte smiled bitterly and said, Dad, no matter what you have done, and no matter what secrets you hide in your heart, I want to tell you that in my heart, you are always my father. I also want to tell you that Xia Shui will get married on the first day of the first month. If you still recognize me as your son and your daughter, Xia Shui, you will come back to attend her wedding. If you don't recognize me as your son and daughter, then don't come back. Charlotte, I know it's hard for me to convince you. I promise you, when Xia Shui gets married, I will come back to attend her wedding and then see my grandchildren. Xia Chang'e seemed to be a little older, and his face was full of exhaustion. Will you really come back? Charlotte had some feelings of disbelief in his heart. Xia Chang'e said, Why don't you believe me? I said that I will come back to attend Xia Shui's wedding. I will definitely come back to attend Xia Shui's wedding. I have missed your wedding. I don't want to miss Xia Shui's. He squeezed out a smile at the corner of his mouth. Also, I already have 2 grandchildren. I actually want to see them. Charlotte's heart was apologetic. I'm sorry, Dad. I shouldn't have said that to you. Don't say it. Xia Chang'e walked to Charlotte. He threw away the light sniper rifle in his hand and opened his arms to embrace Charlotte into his chest. Charlotte had been waiting for this father's hug for a long time. No matter what Xia Chang'e did, and no matter how many things Xia Chang'e hid from him, he had forgiven him at this moment. After all, his father was his father. He was the person who gave birth to him and raised him. Could he really hate him? No. But just as he was immersed in the joy of the return of fatherly love, he suddenly felt a sharp pain in his thigh. He pushed Xia Chang'e away, and then he was horrified to find that there was a saber in his thigh. The saber was so deep that it went straight to the handle. But what made him more afraid was not the knife wound, but that the saber was a specially made saber. There was no blood groove in the middle, but a hollow thruster. When Xia Chang'e stabbed this specially made saber into his thigh, he didn't know what kind of liquid was pushed into his thigh. Father, the saber that was stabbed into his thigh, Charlotte's heart was broken. Xia Chang'e suddenly kicked Charlotte's lower abdomen. Charlotte didn't have any reaction at all. Under Xia Chang'e's heavy kick, his body flew up from the ground. He flew for almost 10 meters before falling down and smashing into the snow. His blood dyed the snow red. It was so eye-catching and shocking. He lay on the snow. The night sky was dark, the cold wind was whistling, and snowflakes fell from the sky. His skin that had lost its temperature couldn't melt them. Get up! Xia Chang'e shouted from Charlotte. Kill me. Charlotte lay motionless on the snow. How could the injury on his body compare to the injury on his heart? Xiao Chang's saber and kick had pierced and broken his heart. Don't you want to protect your wife and child? Get up. Xiao Changhe crazily roared. Stand up and kill me. If you don't stand up, your wife and child will die. Your wife and child will die. These words were like a rope that pulled Charlotte up from the snow. He pulled out the viper pistol from his waist and aimed it at Xiao Changhe. However, it was easy to aim the gun at Xiao Changhe, but it was difficult to pull the trigger. He felt as if there was a big stone that weighed 1,000 pounds on his finger, and he couldn't pull it at all. Can't do it. Xiao Changhe's voice was very cold. You only have one way to go. Kill me. Don't force me. Charlotte roared. Who are you? The answer was already decided. No father would use a knife on his son. However, he still wanted to hear it from Xiao Changhe's mouth. There was still a glimmer of hope in his heart. Xiao Changhe pointed at the saber on Charlotte's thigh. Do you know what's hidden in that saber? Charlotte subconsciously looked at the saber on his thigh and felt a burning pain from the wound. It's the blood of someone infected with the Cerberus virus. You've been infected, Xiao Changhe said. Boom! Charlotte's brain roared, and his eyes felt a little dizzy. It wasn't because of the wound on his thigh, nor was it because of the blood of someone infected with the Cerberus virus hidden in the saber, but his father actually treated him like this. Xiao Changhe coldly said, I know you've been to India. You've entered the slums where the Cerberus virus broke out. You've also entered the Green Algae Company's laboratory, but you haven't been infected with the Cerberus virus. Your body has a strong immunity, but your immune system can't kill so much Cerberus virus. If you want to live, you only have one way to go, and that is to eat. Chapter 12:19. Eating. The food that Xiao Changhe was referring to was clearly not rice or vegetables, but a living human's brain. Zhu Xianyue had also mentioned this request to Charlotte before. When Zhu Xianyue made such a suggestion to Charlotte, Charlotte did not find it strange at all. He also did not feel anything special about it. However, for such words to come out from Xiao Chang's mouth, especially after stabbing him and injecting him with the Cerberus virus, Qin Xiaolian's heart was like dead ashes. There was no greater sorrow than a dead heart. At that moment, Charlotte's heart was more or less dead. He looked at Xiao Changhe, speechless. Those questions, those answers, they were no longer important. Xiao Changhe looked straight into Charlotte's eyes. Your body needs more energy. You could have become stronger through eating, but you would rather starve than eat. Instead, you eat those disgusting energy bars. Your deadline is coming. Given your current state, how can you make it through the final stage? You really do know everything. Are you my father or not? If not, who are you? Charlotte's eyes turned cold. Xiao Changhe did not answer Charlotte's question. His gaze moved to Charlotte's right leg, and he said, You should be able to feel that burning pain now, right? That is the manifestation of the Cerberus virus spreading through your body. If you were an ordinary person, you would have gone crazy by now. However, you're not an ordinary person. Your immune system can still resist for a while. If you do not make the decision to eat, you will be completely infected and go crazy. When that happens, you will still have to eat. Furthermore, you will have to eat with your teeth. Why are you doing this to me? In order to make you stronger. Xiao Changhe raised his hand and pointed at the unconscious Yelena. Go, eat the energy in her brain. If you're unwilling to start, I will help you. Bang, bang, bang. Charlotte suddenly fired. 3 bullets shot out from the Viper pistol, but none of them hit Xiao Changhe. All of them hit the ground in front of Xiao Changhe. The bullets drilled into the snow, leaving 3 white holes. Trash! Xiao Chang's lips curled into a disdainful smile. You hate me, you want to kill me, but you can't do it. In your current state, how are you going to get through the last stage? You need power. You need time. Only then can you decipher the secrets of the World Box and the Crystal Skull. Don't you understand? This is the only way. He pointed at the unconscious Yelena again. Go eat her. A burning pain spread throughout his entire right leg. Charlotte clearly felt that he was losing control of his right leg. The mysterious energy in his body was resisting and killing the invasion of the Hellhound virus. However, the Hellhound virus was splitting too fast. It couldn't resist at all, let alone kill it completely. If this continued, it wouldn't take long before the virus spread to his internal organs and even his brain. He would be doomed. However, to eat Yelena, he couldn't do it even if he killed him. However, killing Xia Changhe, he couldn't do it even if he wasn't sure if Xia Changhe was still his father. After all, this man raised him in Xia Shui. Now, he faced the most difficult choice since his birth. On one side was his father, and on the other was a woman who was loyal to him and even willing to die for him. Who could he let die? However, if he didn't choose either, he would die. With such a triangular death, what choice should he make? The spreading sensation of the burning virus was getting stronger and stronger. His body was like a battlefield. On one side was the mysterious energy in his body, and on the other side was the Hellhound virus. The mysterious energy in his body was undoubtedly an elite warrior that could fight against 1,000 enemies. The Hellhound virus was a motley crew. However, the former's number was too small, while the latter was constantly splitting and multiplying. With an overwhelming numerical advantage, it charged at the mysterious energy's front line. As the battle continued, the mysterious energy's consumption was getting more and more serious. In his consciousness, there was a strong signal to eat. He urgently needed to devour the energy in the brain of a living person. This desire was unprecedentedly strong. Don't persist. Do what you should do. Eat her, Xia Changhe said. His voice seemed to have a magical power. Charlotte walked toward Yelena. He lost control of his right leg and walked with a limp. Xia Changhe's mouth revealed a smile. Yes, this is the right thing to do. Eat her, eat her. Charlotte walked to Yelena's side. He picked up Yelena. Then, he turned and walked down the hill. Xia Changhe suddenly froze for a moment and said in amazement, You, what are you doing? Charlotte looked back at him. I want to send her back. Don't stop me, or I will shoot you. You don't have to come back for Xia Shui's wedding. I don't have a father like you, and she doesn't need a father like you. You stop. Xia Changhe walked toward Charlotte and wanted to stop Charlotte. Bang! A gunshot rang. A bullet hit the ground in front of Xia Changhe. Xia Changhe stopped. As Charlotte looked at him at the moment, he fully believed that as long as he took another step forward, the next bullet would definitely hit his body instead of the ground. Charlotte held Yelena and walked to Shangri-La. Although he was limping, his eyes were firm. He believed that he would be able to send Yelena to Shangri-La. Do you think you can walk away like this? Xia Changhe's voice came from behind. Charlotte didn't look back and didn't stop. Bang! A gunshot rang. Charlotte's body fell to the snow. Blood came out from his left leg. The bullet came from behind. The person who fired must be Xia Changhe. Ah! With a roar, Charlotte suddenly turned over and shot. Bang! A bullet tore through the snow and flew into the distance. Xia Changhe wasn't behind him. In just a second, he actually lost track of Xia Changhe. Bang, bang, bang. Bang, bang, bang. Charlotte pulled the trigger in a frenzy and roared, Why are you doing this? Come out. Ka, ka, ka. There were no more bullets in the Viper pistol. Charlotte's left eye finally caught sight of Xia Changhe's figure. He was already tens of meters away, standing behind a rock that was as tall as him. At that moment, people wearing snow camouflage suits suddenly emerged from the snow behind Xia Changhe. They held sabers and approached step by step. Charlotte suddenly shifted his gaze in another direction. There, more people wearing snow camouflage suits emerged from the snow. It wasn't just from these two directions. There were also people wearing snow camouflage suits emerging from the snow from the other two directions. For a moment, these people were like bamboo shoots in the snow, densely surrounding him and Yelena. Charlotte's gaze suddenly shifted to the place where he had put down his equipment bag. Then his heart turned cold. When Xia Changhe left, he had taken his equipment bag. Without the gun in the equipment bag, the Viper pistol in his hand was out of bullets. The encirclement was shrinking. This was a hopeless situation. Charlotte put Yelena down. He pulled out the saber from its sheath and held it in his hand. Live or die. Do you know what to do? Xiao Chang's voice came through the snow, and it was colder than ice and snow. 70 to 80 people wearing snow camouflage suits suddenly charged toward Charlotte and Yelena. The sabers in their hands flashed with a cold light. Their eyes were empty and filled with killing intent. Just from their eyes, Charlotte could tell that these people had been hypnotized. They had no idea what they were doing. There was only one thought in their minds, and that was to kill him. A man wearing a snow camouflage suit sprinted over and suddenly stabbed the military knife in his hand at Xiaolei's neck. Charlotte dodged to the side and stabbed the first attacker in the heart. Blood splattered and scattered on his face and body. The desire to eat in his brain was like a shark that had smelled blood. It suddenly surged up. As one of the attackers fell, more of them swarmed forward. They were hypnotized and had no fear. No matter how fast and fierce Charlotte's saber was, they did not retreat or hesitate. An attacker pounced toward Yelena, who was lying on the ground. Charlotte's heart burned with a monstrous rage. He punched away an attacker who was entangled with him and pounced to the side. Before the attacker could stab the saber toward Yelena, he stabbed his saber into his eye. The battle had just begun. The saber flashed, and corpses lay on the snow. Charlotte's body was covered in blood. The place where the battle took place was also dyed red. This place was like a blood pool in hell. You won't be able to hold on for long. They're special forces. They only have one thought in their minds, and that is to kill you and Yelena. Don't you want to protect Yelena? Then eat these special forces. Otherwise, you and Yelena will die here. Xiao Chang's voice came. Shut up, Charlotte roared. He swung his right arm, and the saber in his hand cut open the throat of a Special Forces soldier. He was already in a killing frenzy, but at this moment, a military knife slashed open his back. A burning pain came from his back. Blood gushed out and covered his back and legs. Charlotte turned around and stabbed the ambusher's heart. Then he used his shoulder to knock the Special Forces soldier who attacked him from behind. If he hadn't been infected with the Hellhound virus, he could have taken care of these 70 to 80 Special Forces soldiers with just a saber. But the current situation was that the Hellhound virus was attacking his body in a frenzy. The mysterious energy in his body couldn't even be sustained by the Hellhound virus. It was in a precarious situation, let alone help him defeat these fearless Special Forces soldiers. Moreover, he not only had to protect himself under the siege of 70 to 80 enemies, but he also had to protect the unconscious Yelena. This was an impossible mission. A Special Forces soldier stabbed Yelena's lower abdomen. No, Charlotte roared like he had gone mad. Then, he threw the saber in his hand. Crack! The Special Forces soldier who stabbed Yelena was stabbed in the chest and fell to the ground. But more Special Forces soldiers rushed forward. In the next second, Yelena's corpse would be lying in the wilderness, unless a miracle happened. That miracle was Charlotte. Would he, who had been forced into a corner, be willing to become a demon for himself and Yelena's survival? 2 tears flowed from Charlotte's eyes, but they were instantly frozen into ice beads by the cold wind. All the mysterious energy in his body withdrew from the battlefield. The Hellhound virus flowed into other parts of his body like a tide, while the mysterious energy flowed into his brain. At that moment, his eyes turned pitch black, like the deep space of the universe that had lost the stars. Chapter 1220. When the devil revealed his true colors, even the most ferocious beast would be reduced to food. And it didn't take much time, just a blink of an eye. The energy field of the mysterious energy was released. All the brain waves within the range of the energy field were captured, and all the brains were controlled in that instant. All the Special Forces soldiers quietened down. A second ago, they were still ferocious, but now it was as if they had encountered a rapid cold wave of 100 degrees Celsius. They were instantly frozen into puppets. A Special Forces soldier who was about to stab Yelena with a military knife fell down. There was no wound on his body. Immediately after, another Special Forces soldier fell down. There was still no wound on his body, but there was no sign of life in his eyes. His eyes were also frighteningly pale. The energy in the brains was devoured one by one. Charlotte's brain entered an unprecedentedly active state. It felt like he had grown a pair of wings and was flying in the sky. It felt like he had slept with the most beautiful and proud woman in the world. It felt like he had obtained the most powerful power in the world. He was competent for everything and could win everything. Of course, these were all illusions, extremely beautiful illusions. But it wasn't that he had lost control. In fact, everything was under Charlotte's control. All this time, he had been controlling his appetite. He would rather eat energy bars than eat living human brains. After the mysterious energy in his body was completely awakened, it had always been in a state of hunger and had almost no development. Now, a large amount of energy was flowing into his brain. The mysterious energy that had always been hungry devoured the energy of predation. It multiplied and developed. Although the speed was much slower than the division and reproduction of the hellhound virus, the nature of the two was different. The former was just a rat in the gutter, while the latter was a divine dragon that could fly in the sky. This was just a metaphor, but it proved the disparity in strength between the two sides. While Charlotte was eating, something that had suddenly become strong and powerful began to counterattack the hellhound virus in his body. In his body, the places that had been attacked by the hellhound virus were recovered. The last Special Forces soldier also fell. The ground was covered with corpses and blood. The cold wind was still raging, wanting to take away all warmth and freeze everything. The corpses on the ground quickly hardened. The blood also turned into red ice and was quickly covered by snowflakes. However, Charlotte became the most unique existence. His clothes were thin, and his body was bathed in blood. However, the cold wind and ice and snow could not take away the warmth from his body, because he had no warmth to begin with. The snowflakes dancing in the cold wind could not even get close to him. His energy field was like an eggshell protecting him. Before this, his energy field was so weak that it was almost undetectable. The existence of everything had energy, and the conversion of matter would consume energy and generate energy at the same time. Energy was everywhere. The only difference was its nature, the difference between the strong and the weak. However, Charlotte's energy field did not belong to this world. It had an inexplicable mystery. In fact, compared to the secrets of the world box and the crystal skull, Charlotte was more interested in unraveling the secrets of the AE capsule and the mysterious energy in his body, because this was closely related to him. Where did the amber containing the AE capsule powder that was dug out from the pyramid in the belly of Jerusalem come from? What was that powerful and mysterious energy in his body? Perhaps there was no answer in this world. For a long time, Charlotte thought that the prehistoric one and Zhu Xianyuan knew the answer. However, after what happened tonight, he began to doubt this. Let's not talk about whether Pops was his father or not. Based on the fact that Pops had the same immunity to the mysterious energy as Kirsten, Pops had to be related to either the prehistoric one or Zhu Xianyuan. For the time being, if Pops was determined to be the prehistoric one or Zhu Xianyuan's subordinate, then everything he had experienced was a scam to force him to this point today. Before this, Pops had said in his excited state that his mission was to crack the secrets of the world box and the crystal skull, and that this was very important to the prehistoric one and Zhu Xianyuan. Hypothetically, if the prehistoric one and Zhu Xianyuan knew the secrets of the world box and the crystal skull, then how could there be what he had experienced and what was happening in front of him? Was Pops or Zhu Xianyuan's subordinate? Or was he just a piece of clothing between Zhu Xianyuan and the prehistoric one? The answer could be obtained from Pops. Charlotte's eyes moved to the direction where Pops was hiding. The rock still stood quietly on the hillside, being blown by the wind and snow. His eyes instantly penetrated the thick rock and saw the scene behind it. There was nothing behind the rock, only white snow. There was not even a footprint. When he was eating, Pops still left. Pop's purpose had been achieved. Would Pops come back to attend Xia Shui's wedding? Obviously, he wouldn't. Tonight, the father and son turned against each other. When they met again, Charlotte didn't know if he could treat Pops as an enemy. After all, that man used to be his father and raised him. Before he crossed this hurdle, he couldn't treat Pops as the kind of enemy that would be killed quickly. This was the difference between humans and beasts. Humans had feelings. If a person didn't recognize his family and could hurt anyone, what was the difference between him and a beast? During this little time of thinking and observation, Charlotte clearly felt that the signs of the burning virus infection in his body had become lighter. The hellhound virus in his body was dying and was killed by the mysterious energy. The injury on his leg was also recovering at a very fast speed. The only trouble now was the bullet that hit his left leg. He had to deal with it before going down the mountain and leaving here. Charlotte picked up Yelena and put her in the leeward place again. Then he picked up a knife and prepared to cut the bullet hole in his left leg and pry out the bullet that was inserted into the muscle. When he was ready to do that, his eyes instantly locked on the bullet in the flesh. He also discovered that after tonight's crazy eating, his eyes had unknowingly fused. In the past, his left eye was X-ray vision, and his right eye was scanning and inputting data into his brain. Now, the abilities of his two eyes had completely fused and were no longer separated. Now, with a single thought, the image of flesh and blood appeared in his mind, without the slightest bit of separation or dampening. Charlotte glanced at the corpses on the ground and couldn't help but reveal a bitter smile. Was this a blessing in disguise? No, the hellhound virus had been eliminated and his abilities had become stronger, but he wasn't happy at all. On the contrary, the disgusting feeling of eating his own kind was getting stronger and stronger. Facing those corpses, he had wanted to vomit a long time ago, but he had been doing his best to hold it in. The sharp knife cut the bullet hole and pried out the bullet. Blood flowed out of the wound, wetting his thigh in the snow on the ground. But after a few seconds, the blood in the wound stopped automatically and no longer flowed out. His body's self-regulation and repairability had also become stronger. This situation saved Charlotte the trouble of bandaging the wound. He carried Yelena and walked down the hill the way they came. But before he left the hill, Yelena suddenly woke up. After opening her eyes and seeing that she was being carried by a man, Yelena instinctively struggled. "It's me, don't be nervous," Charlotte said. "Boss, you." Only then did Yelena see that it was Charlotte. She immediately calmed down and stopped struggling. Charlotte put her on the ground. Yelena saw that Charlotte was covered in blood and the large number of corpses behind Charlotte. She suddenly opened her mouth wide and couldn't close it. "Let's go back," Charlotte said. "Wait." Yelena stopped Charlotte. "What happened?" "You were attacked, and then I killed these people," Charlotte said. This was the simplest explanation he could think of. Yelena was obviously not satisfied with this explanation. "Boss, I received a message from my father to come here. How could there be a killer ambush here?" Did you follow me here?" She said it very politely, but the meaning was the same. Are you following me? What she was worried about was not that Charlotte was following her, but that Charlotte no longer trusted her. Charlotte looked at her, the corner of his eyes inexplicably moist. "Boss, you..." Yelena had never seen Charlotte so sad, let alone tears in the corner of his eyes. "Ah." Charlotte smiled bitterly and turned his head to avoid Yelena's gaze. "I did follow you here, but I didn't do this to target you. I just wanted to see my father. He didn't want to see me, but wanted to see you. This is strange, right?" Yelena looked at the corpses again. "He wants to kill me? Why?" Charlotte couldn't tell her the truth. He said, "I don't know, but this is a trap. I saw him, and he has changed. He is no longer my father. In the future, no matter what signal you receive from him, don't respond. Avoid him if you can. Otherwise, you will die." "I don't understand. Do you believe me?" Charlotte's gaze moved to Yelena's face. Yelena was stunned for a long time before saying, "Boss, is this true?" Of course it wasn't true, but Charlotte nodded. "If you believe me, then this is true. If you don't believe me, then this is fake." "Of course I believe you," Yelena said. She paused for a moment and then said, "But I still don't understand why my father did this. He adopted me, taught me a lot of things, and did whatever he asked me to do. Why would he want to kill me? Charlotte held Yelena's shoulder. Don't think about it. It's better not to understand some things. He is my father, and I am the one who should suffer. Do you see the injuries on my legs? He pointed to the right leg that was stabbed by a knife and the left leg that was shot. These are given to me by him before I fought those guys. He actually did this to you? But you, with your legs injured, actually. Yelena looked at the 70 or 80 corpses, her face aghast. Don't think about it. Let's go. I promise you, if I find the answer one day, I will tell you. Charlotte said, and then walked down the hill. Although the injuries on his legs recovered quickly, they were not completely healed. He still walked with a slight limp. Yelena caught up with Charlotte's footsteps and reached out to support Charlotte's right arm. Let me help you. Well, I can actually carry you down the hill. Do you need me to carry you? No. Just like this. I'm fine. I can still walk. Although Charlotte's pace was a little limp, it was still very stable. Moreover, his recovery speed was very fast, so it was not a problem for him to go down the hill. The snow was still falling, and the corpses lying on the ground were gradually covered by the snow. Just as Charlotte and Yelena disappeared into the snow, a man appeared on the battlefield. He looked in the direction that Charlotte and Yelena had left and smiled. It has finally begun. Chapter 12:21. When they returned to Xanadu, the sky had not yet brightened. It was the darkest time before dawn. I'll go wake up Qianjun and the others. Yelena said, No, don't wake them up. I'll go to Akiko, Sakino's room, to take a shower and then rest. Charlotte said. Yelena revealed a meaningful smile. I'll take you to Akiko's room. Your arrival will surprise her. Don't let your imagination run wild. There's nothing between me and her. Charlotte said, Yes, there's nothing between you and Akiko. I believe you. Yelena said. She brought Charlotte to Akiko, Sakino's room, and then left. Charlotte reached out and grabbed the door handle of the makeshift room, then opened the door and walked in. A cold light flashed from the roof, but when it was about to cut Charlotte's neck, it stopped. Charlotte let go of Akiko, Sakino's wrist that was holding the sword. It's me. You? Akiko Tsukino was suddenly stunned. Her hand loosened, and a katana fell from her hand to the ground. Then she threw herself into Charlotte's arms and hugged him tightly. Her soft body and charming smell made Charlotte feel a little better. Men fought on the battlefield and returned home with hostility and exhaustion. What they needed the most was the warmth and gentleness of a woman. Only the warmth and gentleness of a woman could melt the hostility and wildness of a man. In the next second, Akiko Tsukino tiptoed and kissed Charlotte's lips. However, her tongue soon tasted something salty. As someone who had killed countless people, she quickly realized that it was the taste of blood. She let go of Charlotte and put her foot on the wall. With a light snap, the lights in the room were immediately lit. Only then did Akiko Tsukino see Charlotte covered in blood and the wound on his leg. She asked in surprise, What happened? Charlotte smiled. Can you take a shower here? I feel like taking a bath. If you rub my back, I'll tell you. Akiko Tsukino was stunned for a moment before she said, Yes, there's a boiler here to provide hot water, but the bathing place is somewhere else. I can take you there. I won't wash here. Charlotte didn't want to leave this place. I have a basin for washing clothes and hot water for washing. Are you sure you want to wash here? Charlotte had already started to take off his clothes. Akiko Tsukino shrugged, then brought her large basin for washing clothes and filled it with a large basin of hot water. Charlotte stepped into the basin and sat down. The hot water made his skin warm, which made him feel very comfortable. The sadness hidden in his heart and the disgusting feeling of eating people also reduced a lot. Before he took that step, he regarded it as a prehistoric beast, as an insurmountable boundary. But after his father forced him to take that step, he found that it was actually not as difficult as he had imagined. People were always willing to forgive themselves, and he was no exception. Akiko Tsukino squatted behind Charlotte, holding a towel to wipe the blood on Charlotte's back. She saw the eye-catching wound on Charlotte's back, And what surprised her even more was that the wound had healed by 40%. What happened? Akiko Tsukino asked Charlotte. She carefully wiped the blood around the wound. Charlotte told her what had happened, only hiding the part about him devouring the energy of living people's brains. This was a secret he couldn't say. Akiko Tsukino was silent for a long time before she said, "I can't see my father in the future, and I can't respond to his signal." Charlotte nodded. "Yes, he has nothing to do with me anymore. If any of you want to follow him, I won't stop you." Akiko Tsukino suddenly stretched out her hands from under Charlotte's armpits and hugged him tightly. "Don't say that. You know I belong to you. My body, my heart, everything I have belongs to you. I'm willing to die for you." She was a woman who loved and hated to the extreme. She was willing to kill her Yagyu Kenichi for Charlotte, and she was also willing to cut off contact with her father for Charlotte. This was not a multiple-choice question for her. Her father had set a trap to kill Yelena, and Charlotte had suffered such a serious injury. In her heart, he was already an enemy. As long as Charlotte was willing, she would slash Xia Changhe with a knife, if Charlotte was willing and gave her such an order. She was such a woman, and she could really do it. Xiaolei reached out and pulled her over, then pulled her into his arms. The water in the basin splashed out, but who cared? You're injured, and you still want to... Akiko Tsukino was inexplicably nervous. After all, Charlotte hadn't touched her for a while. Xiaolei smiled. "This injury is nothing. Are you willing to accept it?" Akiko Tsukino bit her lip and nodded. Charlotte leaned down and kissed her lips. Akiko Tsukino wrapped her arms around Charlotte's neck and responded with a wild response. Splash, splash, the water in the basin rippled and splashed on the floor. Akiko Tsukino's pajamas were also wet, sticking to her delicate skin. Her beautiful curves and scenery were exposed to Charlotte's vision. Charlotte stood up and carried her to her bed. "I'm yours. You don't have to pity me," she said. Charlotte put her on the bed and pressed her down. He wasn't going to be polite. He needed to vent. He needed to replace the sadness and fear in his heart with the pleasure of doing it to his heart's content. The light of dawn dispelled the darkness. The sounds in the makeshift house finally stopped, and peace was restored. In the open space outside the door of the makeshift house, Yelena, Engami-kan, Sayemu, Alessio, and Erdamu stood quietly on the open space, staring at the makeshift house. There were also 4 female knights. They were on the other side. They had also received Yelena's notice and were waiting to welcome Charlotte. They also found out about what happened last night from Yelena. They were originally full of worry, but when they heard Akiko Tsukino's exaggerated voice coming from the makeshift house, they understood that their worries were unnecessary. "Isn't this too exaggerated?" Sayemu wiped his forehead. "It's been 2 hours and Akiko hasn't stopped screaming. She's probably taking medicine," Engami-kan said. Yelena slapped the back of the Indian man's head. "You monkey, what nonsense are you talking about? Do you think it's you?" Engami-kan had an awkward look on his face. "Darling, there's so many people. How did you..." Laughter rang out. It gave people the feeling that nothing serious had happened last night. It was just a normal day. This wasn't some uninhabited paradise, but Peace Residence. They were chatting and joking in the courtyard of Peace Residence. In fact, they were already used to the days without Xia Changhe. They had a leader, and that was Charlotte. On the other side, the 4 female knights were also chatting. "That Japanese woman is so coquettish. She's screaming so loudly, as if she's afraid that others can't hear her," Stella said, frowning. Teresa said with a smile, "Are you jealous? Or are you angry that you're not the one sleeping with Holy Thunder?" Stella rolled her eyes at Teresa. "I'll sleep with him. What's there to be afraid of? Everything I have belongs to him. If he wants it, I'll give it to him." Giovanna drew a cross in front of her chest. "May the Lord forgive our mistakes and forgive our sins." The door of the makeshift house opened. Akiko Tsukino, dressed in a traditional Japanese kimono, walked out from behind the door. Then, she reached out and closed the door. Yelena walked up. "Where's boss?" "He's still sleeping. Let's not disturb his rest," Akiko Tsukino said. Yelena smiled bitterly. Just now, you guys clearly, Akiko Tsukino looked serious. We didn't do anything. All right, you guys didn't do anything. Yelena shrugged. You guys can go now. Wait for boss to rest before you come back to see him. Engumi-kan had a smirk on his face. Yeah, after plowing for so long, even a cow would be exhausted. But the fields are fine. Right, Akiko? Akiko Tsukino's almond-shaped eyes widened. Do you want to be stabbed? Engumi-kan smiled. Well, pretend I didn't say anything. Just then, Charlotte opened the door and walked out of the makeshift house. He yawned and said, You guys are making so much noise outside that I can't sleep. In fact, he hadn't slept at all. He had asked Akiko Tsukino to come out first instead of Akiko Tsukino because he had seen the members of the Zodiac Squad and the 4 female knights waiting for him outside. If he had come out with Akiko Tsukino, it would have been a little awkward. That was why he had waited until now. The members of the Zodiac Squad and the 4 female knights went up to greet him. Everyone looked at Xia Lei with concern in their eyes. How are your injuries? Qianjun asked. Charlotte said, I'm fine. It's just a minor injury. Giovanna said with concern. You say it's a minor injury? I heard from Yelena that you were shot in the leg and stabbed. How could such a serious injury be a minor injury? Rosa also came over. How about I take you to the infirmary? I'll help you deal with it. Charlotte jumped twice and then said with a smile, Do I look like someone who's injured? I'm fine. Don't worry about my injuries. The group of people looked at Charlotte, dumbfounded. He had been shot and stabbed. Not only did he have sex with Akiko Tsukino for half a night, but he had also recovered from his injuries. Was this something a human could do? It was hard for the members of the Zodiac Squad to understand, but it was easy for the 4 female knights. In their hearts, Charlotte was the holy thunder, a godlike existence. I believe you have heard from Yelena what happened. After hesitating for a moment, Charlotte said, My father is no longer the father he used to be. There are too many unexplainable things about him, but I know that you are all indebted to him. I have no right to ask you to be enemies with him. If any of you want to leave here and find my father, I won't stop you. Huh? Erdemel laughed dryly. We've waited for you for so long, and this is what you're telling us? Yeah, I don't like what you're saying, Simon said. Alessio also said, If you want us to make a choice between you and Dad, well, I choose you. Qianjun came over and patted Charlotte on the shoulder. He gave me up and let me suffer inhuman torture in Guantanamo Bay and Mossad secret base. If it weren't for you, I would still be tortured in that dark place. If you want me to choose, I still choose you. If you wanted to kill me, I choose you. Yelena didn't need any reason. Charlotte smiled. Let's forget about this matter. Don't contact him again. This place is our new home. I'll stay here for a few days and build it with you. Okay, stay here for a few more days. Akiko Tsukino was the happiest one. Engumi-kan said, Boss, I still have a few Viagra. I'll give them all to you later. Charlotte. Chapter 1222. Every day, a large number of supplies were flown from the outside world to Shangri-La. There were also workers selected by the Rescue Society who knew construction technology, who also took the transport plane to Shangri-La. This place was changing every day. After all, with $10 billion invested, even a barren mountain would become a mountain of flowers and fruits. The purpose of Charlotte staying was to prevent his father from hurting the other members of the Zodiac team. Another purpose was to build the brain of Super Xiaoqian. In the United States, the Kami system had a powerful brain in the CIA headquarters, which was the spherical electronic device. It was a combination of servers, supercomputers, and artificial intelligence, which was equivalent to the brain of the Kami system. Up until now, Super Xiaoqian was just a ghost wandering directly in the internet. She did not have any hardware that belonged to her. This was actually the reason why she could not win against the Kami system in the United States. Therefore, he wanted to build a super brain for Super Xiaoqian, and the location was Shangri-La. On the second day after Charlotte stayed in Shangri-La, a Yun-20 transport plane loaded with the equipment and spare parts needed by Charlotte landed on the temporary runway of Shangri-La. Giovanna, directed the workers of the Rescue Society to unload the goods from the plane and then transfer them to a cave at the bottom of a valley. It was a natural cave, cone-shaped, 200 meters deep in a mountain, enough to withstand a nuclear bomb-level attack. It was discovered by the Thousand Army Hunt. It was originally intended to be used as a shelter in the event of an air raid, but now Charlotte wanted it to be Super Xiaoqian's house. The ground had been cleaned by the workers and paved with self-leveling cement. It was sky blue, neat and beautiful. More than a dozen forklifts transported the equipment and spare parts needed by Charlotte into the cave and unloaded them into an oval space at the bottom of the cave. Charlotte entered the cave accompanied by Giovanna of the Gray family and Teresa of the Russo family, preparing for a week of seclusion to build a hardware brain for Super Xiaoqian. After the workers of the Rescue Society left, Super Xiaoqian was projected from Charlotte's wristwatch. She turned into a big-breasted female general and walked in front of Charlotte, Giovanna, and Teresa. She wore a short summer skirt and a white military-style shirt. Her perky breasts propped up the shirt on her chest, giving off a feeling that the buttons would collapse and escape at any time. Her plump buttocks gave off an incomparably tantalizing sense of flesh, and it was also fully stretched out by the short green skirt. A pair of snow-white long legs stretched out from under the short skirt, delicate and beautiful. Her black high heels stepped on the sky-blue, self-leveling floor, but there was no sound, and there was a kind of sexy feeling that made one's heart itch. Super Xiaoqian didn't care about Giovanna and Stella's surprised looks. She said as she walked, "Master, is this my home?" "Yes, this will be your home," Charlotte said, sky blue Mediterranean style. "Not bad," Super Xiaoqian said. "It's just that the signal here is too weak, including the signal from the base outside. The signal here can't support my computing power at all. Unless I'm here to rest, I can't treat this place as my base. It's like playing online games. A 100 megabyte internet speed can definitely kill a 1 megabyte worm, and this place will make me that poor worm." Charlotte said, "Don't worry. When it's built and we go back, I'll buy a satellite that belongs to you and launch it into space. It will only provide services for you." "A satellite that belongs to me? Is that enough?" "Enough. Enough." Super Xiaoqian turned around and pounced at Charlotte, wanting to give him a hug. However, as soon as Charlotte walked into the area where there was no signal, her figure suddenly disappeared. It was quiet. There was no sexy and disturbing female general, nor was there a white sheep that made people not know whether to laugh or cry. Only then did Giovanna find a chance to speak. "Is she our comrade in the virtual world?" Charlotte laughed. "Yes, she's called Super Xiaoqian. She's very powerful. The money to build this base was all earned by her from the stock market." "Wow, then I'll have to please her in the future." Stella's eyes lit up. "Do you need money? I can give it to you," Charlotte said, a man giving money to a woman for no reason. Stella revealed a mischievous smile. "What do you want?" Charlotte didn't know what to say. It was actually very comfortable to be flirted with by a woman like Stella. "Holy thunder, do you have any thoughts about the girl from the Russo family?" Giovanna said with a smile. She didn't mention the girl from the Gray family, but her eyes were full of that kind of flirting. After the girl from the Russo family flirted with him, the girl from the Gray family came to flirt with him. No matter how comfortable it would become a headache. Under the eager gaze of the two female knights, Charlotte hurriedly changed the topic. "By the way, is the proxy war still going on? Is the money I gave you enough? If not, I'll give you more." A trace of disappointment flashed in Giovanna's blue eyes. "You killed Yin Fo and Augustman in India, and the leader of the FA organization didn't show up. The FA organization is now in name only. It's no longer a threat to us." Stella said, "I'm afraid the leader of the FA organization doesn't dare to show up. He knows you want to kill him. The situation now is that the mercenaries and killers in Mexico are killing people indiscriminately. They kill some drug dealers and people related to the FA organization to cheat our money. We've been wanting to ask you for your opinion on whether we should stop this proxy war." "Holy thunder, Now that you've brought it up, please give us an opinion. Charlotte didn't even think about it and said, then stop it. If we keep fighting, it will become killing innocent people. Giovanna said, I've calculated that there's about 80 million left of the money you gave us. I'll transfer it to you when we go back. Charlotte said, you don't have to transfer it to me. You could divide it into 4 parts. Each of you will take 20 million and buy whatever you want, jewelry and clothes. What kind of jewelry and clothes cost $20 million? Giovanna and Stella were stunned on the spot. There was no woman who didn't like a generous man, and Charlotte was the man who stood on top of the world in this respect. Holy thunder, you are the god of the Rescue Association. We are loyal and serve you. We don't need your money. We only need your trust, tolerance, and love, said Giovanna. Charlotte smiled awkwardly. How many times do I have to tell you before you are willing to believe me? I'm not a god at all. I'm just an ordinary person. Stella suddenly reached out and pinched Charlotte's thigh. She used a lot of strength and didn't seem to be joking. Charlotte looked at her in surprise. Well, what do you want to do? Stella said. You said you were an ordinary person. Yelena said that your leg was seriously injured by a gun and a knife. It would take an ordinary person 1 or 2 months to recover, but you could jump the next morning. Now I pinched you so hard, but you didn't react. And when I touched your skin, there were no scars at all. Do you dare to take off your pants and show us? I bet your skin must be as smooth and delicate as a baby's. Take off my pants and show them? Charlotte smiled bitterly. Of course, he wouldn't do that, but he didn't know how to explain it. However, he knew that what Stella said was true. In just 2 days, not only had his wounds healed, but there wasn't even a scar left. After eating a lot, his extraordinary immunity had improved to a higher level, and even his body had the ability to repair itself. So serious gunshot and knife wounds didn't even leave a scar. If this was the standard of a god, then he really could be considered one. In such a situation, could he say that Stella was wrong? However, it was absurd to be worshipped and served as a god just like that. Just as Charlotte was feeling confused, Giovanna suddenly reached out and grabbed his other thigh. She even pinched it and then said in surprise, it's true. There's no scar at all. Giovanna's hand moved up quietly. Charlotte hurriedly jumped out from between the 2 women. Okay, you can think whatever you want, but don't touch me anymore. You've been in China for a long time. You should know that there are differences between men and women, right? You can't touch me randomly. Chapter 12:23. Giovanna and Stella didn't seem to hear what he said. The 2 women looked at him with eager eyes, full of piety and respect, and even a little religious fanaticism. This was the first time Charlotte had seen such eyes. The 2 women's eyes gave him a headache because he knew what it meant. They were really treating him like a god. Well, let's get to work. Charlotte diverted the 2 women's attention again. Can you help me open a box and take out everything inside? We can do anything for you. Giovanna looked at Charlotte with her eyes shining. So, you don't have to be polite with us. Charlotte shrugged and didn't say anything. He just buried his head in his work. Giovanna and Stella also got busy. They pried open the box with a crowbar, then moved out the equipment and parts inside and sorted them. This was all physical work, and the temperature in the cave was almost 20 degrees. They soon became tired and sweaty. It's so hot. Giovanna wiped the sweat off her forehead. Then, she unzipped her winter suit and took it off. She only had a coffee-colored fleece under her winter coat, but the moment she took off her winter coat, she also took off her fleece, leaving only a purple bra on her upper body. The big breasts unique to Italian women were proudly exposed in the air. The towering, snow-white mountains trembled and seemed ready to come out. Charlotte didn't know where to put his eyes. Giovanna's action seemed to give Stella a positive signal. She also took off her winter coat and fleece, only wearing a bra to work. Her breasts were also Italian branded breasts. They were as firm and plump as Giovanna's, and people couldn't help but take a few more glances. Xiaolei didn't know where to look when there was only Giovanna. Now that there was Stella, the 2 women's 4 plump breasts were swaying in front of his eyes. The snow-white abdomen with a hint of abdominal muscles and the full and perky buttocks that were unique to European women wrapped in winter pants made him even more unsure of where to look. He asked the two women to come over to help him, but he didn't expect that the two women were men who would give him trouble. They treat me as a god, and they even took off their clothes. Do they wanted to dedicate themselves to them? Charlotte stammered in his heart. The answer was obvious, because these female knights used to be the Holy Virgin of the Knights' Hospital, and they swore to serve God. They had become Charlotte's knights, and they had to serve Charlotte for the rest of their lives. Their bodies and souls were destined to belong to Charlotte when they decided to follow and serve Charlotte. Only Charlotte could touch them. If Charlotte didn't touch them for the rest of his life, they would be the Holy Virgin for the rest of their lives. The women from the Grey and Rousseau families were still so young. How could they endure the loneliness? Charlotte was busy with work in the capital, and he had 5 wives after he returned to Ping in residence. They had no chance at all. Since Yale was here, they had a chance. How could they be so stupid as to do nothing and miss this chance? Charlotte knew what the 4 female knights were thinking, or rather, scheming, but he didn't want to face it because of his own reasons. Therefore, even though the beauty was tempting, Charlotte still controlled the desire in his body and buried his head in work. It's so hot, holy thunder. Can I take off my pants too? My legs are drenched in sweat. Stella said. Charlotte was speechless. Fortunately, she said her legs were drenched in sweat. If she said something else was drenched in sweat, the problem would be complicated. It can't be, is it that hot? Charlotte said as he worked. But during this process, Stella suddenly pulled down her winter pants and casually threw them on a wooden box. A pair of snow-white long legs were exposed to the air, and there was a white key piece of cloth. Her plump butt bulged out the cloth, and the shape under the cloth was mature and alluring. Charlotte was speechless to find that the sweat did wet some places, but they were the places that shouldn't be wet. The marks there made him fantasize about something that he shouldn't have. This also caused a large part of him that he worked so hard to suppress to completely awaken and continue to move. Just now, Giovanna gave Stella a signal, and now Stella gave Giovanna an even more positive signal. In a small circle of the 4 female knights, there would be a response if there was a signal. Therefore, 3 seconds later, Giovanna pulled down her winter pants, leaving only a pink key piece of cloth. Another large white ball with an Italian brand appeared out of thin air. The fabric was so tight that it could not be any smaller or narrower. The lines outlined by the cloth were round and plump, and the shape hidden in the cloth was revealed. It was more mature, sexier, and more alluring. Charlotte didn't pay attention, and the knife in his hand stabbed into the web between his thumb and index finger. The 2 women let out an exaggerated cry of surprise and quickly walked toward him. Holy thunder, you're bleeding. Let me help you suck it. My saliva can disinfect it. Charlotte was speechless. The women from the Grey family and the Rousseau family came over. Giovanna took away the knife in Charlotte's hand, and Stella grabbed Charlotte's hand. Then, she put her cherry lips on Charlotte's web and sucked on the wound like a carp. She really wanted to use her saliva to disinfect Charlotte's wound, even though she knew that it was meaningless. Charlotte was nervous. He wanted to refuse, but he couldn't say the words, and he couldn't even move his body. His weakness had never changed. He would almost never refuse a woman, especially a woman who was good to him. He waited bitterly for the 2 female knights to finish taking care of him. Every second was torturous for him, because not only did he have to face Stella's mouth, but he also had to face Giovanna's touch. Now, holy thunder, why are you sweating so much? Let me help you wipe it. Giovanna's voice was very gentle. She reached out to wipe Charlotte's sweat. Her movements were very gentle. In fact, not only was she gentle, but she was also very skillful. Her hand rubbed from Charlotte's cheek to his neck, and then from his neck to his chest. A strange feeling came, as if there were many caterpillars crawling on his chest. Being disturbed and stimulated like this, the desire in Charlotte's body had already turned into a stupid riot. That burning desire made his mouth dry, and he couldn't help but want to do something to these two Italian beauties. He was very strong, and he didn't cross the line even half a step. But when Giovanna's hand rubbed on his abs, and she had the intention to continue downward, he couldn't help it anymore. Okay, I'm fine now. Thank you. Charlotte escaped from between the two female knights again. His face was red, as if he had drunk a little. Is this the end? It's not like that. The two female knights seemed to have a wonderful telepathic connection, and they walked toward Charlotte together. Their eyes were very firm, and there was enough piety and passion in them. They had received religious education from the Knights Hospitaller since they were young, and the ideas they accepted were different from other women. They believed that Charlotte was the Son of God, the Son of God they would follow and serve for the rest of their lives. They had already made a certain decision, and they couldn't stop. In the world of religion, there was never a lack of fanatical beliefs, and there was never a lack of believers who would sacrifice themselves for their beliefs. Giovanna and Stella happened to be such believers. Charlotte quickly retreated under a stone wall of the cave, and there was nowhere to run. The two female knights were still approaching step by step, without the slightest hesitation. Charlotte smiled bitterly and said, "Calm down. Believe me, you're just impulsive." Giovanna said, "No, we've been thinking about it for a long time. We've also discussed it. We're your knights, and our bodies, souls, and our beliefs belong to you. In this world, no man can touch us except you. We're still young girls. Do you have the heart to do that?" Charlotte was speechless. Holy thunder, if you can be with that Japanese woman, why can't you be with us? Because we can't do anything without her. There was a tinge of sadness in Giovanna's eyes. Her gaze was mixed with a burning desire that could melt even the strongest man. Charlotte's heart softened. He knew his place in their hearts, and he also knew what kind of role he played in their lives. If he didn't touch them, they wouldn't let other men touch them. They would be lonely until they died, never knowing what it was like to have sex. They were still so young. Wasn't this too cruel for them? Just when Xiao Lei's heart softened and he was hesitating, Giovanna bravely gave him a headbutt. Then Stella gave him a sideways button-down. With his back against the stone wall, he was immediately surrounded by four soft and supple arms, unable to escape. The two women's breaths were warm and fragrant, curling around his face and neck. That feeling was ticklish, making his heart itch unbearably. "Holy thunder, our Son of God, do to us what you did to that Japanese woman," said Giovanna. Her voice was trembling, and her cheeks were blushing. "Our Son of God, do you know? I dream of you touching me and giving me the most intense love. After receiving your love, our hearts and beliefs will be sublimated. Want me? Want me? I'm ready to dedicate myself to you." Stella's voice was also trembling slightly. She was very excited, and she couldn't suppress it. Although they had received that kind of training in the Knights Regiment, it was only theoretical after all. They didn't have any real experience, so it was inevitable that they would be nervous and shy. But the more they were nervous, the more they wanted to give themselves to the Son of God in their hearts, so that their hearts and beliefs could be sublimated. Charlotte couldn't stay calm anymore. He was a man, and an extraordinary man with exuberant needs. He wasn't iron, nor was he a stone. The two female knights had already done so much. If he still pretended to be aloof and rejected them heartlessly, then he would really be a cold stone, unworthy of their loyalty and service. Just as they were looking at him, waiting for him to make a decision, he suddenly reached out and hugged their slender waists. Then he kissed Giovanna. "Oh!" Giovanna moaned and closed her eyes excitedly. Happiness came so suddenly that she couldn't think. She only mustered up the courage to respond when Charlotte pried open her teeth. After kissing Giovanna, Charlotte kissed Stella. The three of them were entangled together, but just as Charlotte picked up Giovanna and put her on a box, he suddenly heard footsteps. "Someone's coming." Charlotte hurriedly dodged. Giovanna instinctively jumped down from the wooden box. She hurriedly pulled up the little dress that was pulled down and then nervously looked at the cave passage. Stella was even more timid. She even hid under the wooden box. Like a sniper, she peeked out a little bit of her vision to peep, while she hurriedly tidied up the little things on her upper body. Quickly put on your clothes. Why are you hiding? Charlotte was also very flustered, but his reaction was the fastest. He quickly walked toward the passage. The two female knights came back to their senses. They hurriedly picked up the winter clothes on the ground and put them on. It was Qianjun who entered the cave. Before he entered the space at the bottom of the cave, he was stopped by Charlotte. "Oh, Qianjun, what's the matter?" Charlotte laughed. Qianjun said, "I received a signal from my dad, so I came to talk to you. Let's talk as we walk." Charlotte didn't wait for Qianjun to look inside and said as he walked out, "Where are you going?" Qianjun looked a little strange. I'm going to relieve myself. Damn, there isn't even a toilet in this place. It's suffocating me," Charlotte said. Qianjun, the passionate and romantic thing didn't happen because of Qianjun's appearance. Why is that Qianjun so annoying? Stella complained as she put on her winter pants. He barged in at the most critical moment. I saw Holy Thunder almost enter. If it wasn't for that guy Qianjun, you would have become Holy Thunder's woman. Giovanna's legs inexplicably softened. Her face became even redder. "Don't say any more. I feel terrible right now. I feel worse than you. At least he touched you, but I..." Stella had a disappointed look on her face. Chapter 12:24. Giovanna patted Stella's butt and laughed. "Don't worry, we've made a good start. Although we didn't succeed this time, we'll definitely succeed next time. Yes, Holy Thunder will love you." "Screw you. Holy Thunder put you on a box, not me. You don't know how coquettish you looked at that time." "Oh my God, you're jealous of me?" "Oh no, you're jealous of the Order?" "I'll be jealous?" "Ha, you're funny." Stella blushed. "You don't have to be like this. Are you worried that Holy Thunder can't do it? You idiot. He's the Son of God. He has the ability to satisfy everyone. Have you forgotten? He has 5 wives, and we only have 4. Screw you, what are you talking about? Shameless." The 2 Italian women were talking in Italian in the cave. At this time, Charlotte and Qianjun hadn't walked out of the cave yet. The voices of the 2 Italian women came from the cave. Charlotte heard them, and so did Qianjun. Qianjun, who knew a little Italian, couldn't help but laugh. Charlotte was embarrassed to death. However, he pretended that nothing had happened and walked with his head down. After walking out of the cave, the temperature outside suddenly dropped. A gust of cold wind blew in his face, and the cold feeling caused the heat in Xia Lei's lower abdomen to subside. "Wait for me. I'll go to the bathroom over there." Charlotte walked to the forest next to the cave. Qianjun said with a smile, "You really want to go to the bathroom?" "Of course." Charlotte walked faster into the forest and took out something to water the tree. He couldn't help but think of Giovanna and Stella's bodies again. The water column suddenly became straight and poured farther. Qianjun came to the outside of the forest. "Sorry to disturb you." "What are you talking about?" "It's nothing." Charlotte's voice came from the forest. "Ahem, yes." Qianjun cleared his throat. "Let's get down to business." Charlotte walked out of the forest. "You said you received a signal from Dad. What's going on?" Qianjun said, "It happened just now. After the patrol, I went back to my room and saw this piece of paper on my bed." He took out a piece of paper from his trouser pocket and handed it to Charlotte. It was a piece of paper, a very ordinary piece of paper. Charlotte opened the letter. There was a simple map drawn on the letter. At first glance, it gave off a very familiar feeling. Then, he realized that the map was actually a map of this area. A route was marked with red lines on the map, and the destination was halfway up a mountain. At the finish line, there was even a skull specially drawn. At the bottom right corner of the map was written, "Meet me at 12 p.m. Does this represent death? Qianjun smiled bitterly. "He wants to kill me? Why?" Charlotte put away the letter. "He hasn't left yet. Don't go to see him. I don't know what happened to him, but I know he is very dangerous." Qianjun said, "He was able to enter Xanadu without us knowing. He is no longer the father he used to be. Something incredible must have happened to him. Let me go. If he can come in without anyone knowing, he can kill me without anyone knowing. He has such an ability now. I can't hide even if I want to. I want to see him and see what he wants to say to me. If he wants to kill me, then let him kill you." Charlotte was a little angry. "Calm down. Don't trust him unreservedly just because he is dad. Listen to his command. Otherwise, you won't even know how you die. Listen to me and let me deal with this matter. You stay here and protect the base." Qianjun seemed very stubborn. "No, I can listen to you for other things, but I want to make my own decision on this matter. I suffered so much when he abandoned me. I want to ask him why he did that. If he wants to kill me, I won't give up. Besides, he is in danger now. It's not safe for you to go. Don't you need a basis to judge whether he is an enemy or a friend? If I can come back alive, then the situation is not the worst. If I die in his hands, then he is an enemy. I have decided. I will set off after dinner. Don't follow me. Let me solve this matter alone." Qianjun said. Charlotte said angrily, "Qianjun, why are you so stubborn?" "That's settled." Qianjun turned around and left. This was the first time that Qianjun had disobeyed his will. But Charlotte was not really angry with Qianjun. He was more moved because Qianjun wanted to use his life to prove whether his father was an enemy or a friend. Qianjun was the snake of the Zodiac Squad. He was the most cold-blooded and the most powerful one. But that was just his appearance, a shell to protect his inner world. Charlotte could see that Qianjun was actually a man who could distinguish kindness and grudges clearly. If there was kindness, he would repay it. If there was enmity, he would take revenge. Back then, his father adopted him and nurtured him. This was a huge favor. That was why he became his father's killer and killed for his father. Now, his father suddenly changed. He didn't know who he was, and he didn't know if he was an enemy or a friend. How could he not want to investigate clearly? So even though he promised Charlotte not to contact his father, he still changed his mind after receiving his father's message. Actually, Qianjun didn't have to tell Charlotte and secretly went to see his father. But he came over with a letter and told Charlotte. This was enough to show that he was a man with a magnanimous heart. Watching Qianjun leave, Charlotte sighed. He had made a decision in his heart. Teresa and Rosa walked over. The two women were wearing thick winter clothes and carrying Gale assault rifles. It was obvious that they had just returned from patrolling. The thick winter clothes didn't affect the curves of their bodies. They still looked beautiful and sexy. If it wasn't for the guns on them and the direction they were coming from, Charlotte would have mistakenly thought that it was Giovanna and Stella. For female knights, 2 faces, 2 figures. This was indeed a wonderful thing. But sometimes it could also become a headache. Holy thunder! What are you doing here? Teresa strode over. Aren't you building a brain for that super Xiaoqian? Where are they? Teresa also walked over. Just as Charlotte was about to say that Giovanna and Stella were in the cave, Giovanna and Stella walked out. He said, "They're out. You guys can talk." Holy thunder, where are you going? Giovanna walked over quickly, looking a little anxious. "There's still work waiting for you inside." Stella also came over. "That's right. We have to hurry. Otherwise, you won't be able to finish your work." If it weren't for Qianjun, Charlotte would have definitely brought them in to finish their work. But now that something like this had happened, Charlotte wasn't in the mood to do that. But his old problem came up again. He didn't know how to reject Giovanna and Stella. At the same time, he also understood Giovanna and Stella's feelings and needs. They had already done so much. They were only one step away when Qianjun suddenly came. It was normal for them to want to start all over again. Just as Charlotte was at a loss, the 4 female knights had already finished communicating with their eyes. They were twin sisters and had a special telepathic connection with each other. If something happened, 1 or 2 glances and a few seconds of observation were enough for them to understand. "Let's go help too," Rosa said with a smile. "Yes, let's go help too." Teresa's face was also filled with an excited smile. "Anyway, our patrol mission has already been completed. There's nothing else to do." Giovanna held onto Charlotte's arm. "Holy thunder, let's go. We have to finish building Super Xiaoqian's brain as soon as possible." Charlotte braced himself and nodded. "All right, let's get to work." The 4 female knights secretly exchanged glances, each of them unable to contain their joy. The cave was very quiet. The air seemed to still be filled with the smell of female hormones. Rosa, Teresa, you've just arrived. Let me explain it to you. You just need to open up those boxes and sort out the instruments and parts inside. Xiao Lei instructed them with a serious expression. Just as he finished speaking, Giovanna suddenly burrowed into his arms. She hooked her arms around his neck and kissed his lips. Without any plot foreshadowing, it was the climax right off the bat. This caught Charlotte unprepared. He appeared to be somewhat flustered. The other 3 female knights rushed forward. From the left, right, and back, Charlotte instantly turned into a beauty tree. 4 beauty fruits grew out of his body. His clothes were ripped open. His belt was untied. Everything else was pulled down. The scene suddenly became chaotic and out of control. Charlotte did not know who to deal with, but he knew that his body was covered with lip marks. A few minutes later, Giovanna sat on that wooden box again. She held onto the wooden box, nervously and excitedly waiting for the arrival of that happy moment. The other 3 female knights were also very nervous. They were like vines on Charlotte's body. They were also nervously and excitedly waiting for that moment. This was because Charlotte was the Son of God in their hearts. From a certain perspective, what was about to happen to Giovanna was a miracle. They were all fanatical believers. They loved miracles. Beep, 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 beep. The horn of a loading truck suddenly sounded from the cave's passageway. There was also the sound of footsteps. The footsteps of a large group of people. The scene of anticipating a miracle suddenly turned into panic. Giovanna wanted to die, but she immediately jumped down from the wooden box and pulled up the pitiful amount of fabric that had been pulled down. The other 3 female knights also quickly put on their clothes. Their movements were as agile as a well-trained firefighter. A loading truck drove into the cave. Behind it was a large group of mechanics from the Rescue Association. Why did this kind of thing that made people want to bang their heads against the wall always happen? You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.